In a time long ago, in the serene landscape of ancient India, the teachings of Siddhartha Gautama, the Buddha, echoed through forests and villages. Picture the winding, quiet paths where monks walked, their robes brushing against the earth, the rustling of leaves beneath their feet, and the golden light of dawn gently illuminating the world. The early morning mist would lift, revealing the lush green fields dotted with wildflowers and ancient trees, standing tall like sentinels. Ancient temples, carved with intricate depictions of lotus flowers, sacred symbols, and stories of enlightenment, stood as silent witnesses to the wisdom that permeated the land. Their stone walls, covered in moss, whispered of centuries of devotion and contemplation. The air was filled with the soft murmur of prayers and the distant hum of chants, blending harmoniously with the sounds of birds awakening in the trees and the gentle flow of nearby rivers. It was a world alive with the rhythms of nature, where the teachings of the Buddha intertwined with the daily lives of the people, guiding them towards inner peace and harmony. In this realm, the Buddha's message spread like the gentle breeze that carried the fragrance of blooming jasmine and incense from temple altars. It was a message that spoke not of grand gestures, but of the simple, profound truth, the power of words, and the incredible influence they wield over our lives. The Buddha's voice, calm and compassionate, reached the hearts of villagers, monks, and travelers alike, urging them to awaken to the impact of their speech. He taught that words, like seeds, could either blossom into acts of kindness, understanding, and unity, or grow into thorns that cause pain and division. As the Buddha's teachings echoed through the forests and resonated in the minds of those who listened, people began to realize the sacred responsibility that came with every word they spoke. They understood that language was not merely a tool for communication, but a path to transformation, capable of shaping the world around them. The ancient land of India, with its rivers and mountains, temples and fields, became a living tapestry where the profound truths of the Buddha's teachings wove themselves into the everyday lives of all who walked its paths. The Buddha taught that every word we speak carries energy, a force that ripples out into the world, much like a stone dropped into a pond. He explained that our speech, once set in motion, sends waves that extend far beyond its point of origin, touching lives and shaping the environment around us in ways we may never fully see. This teaching was shared in the most varied of settings, in the midst of bustling marketplaces, where the air was filled with the sounds of merchants and buyers haggling over goods, in the stillness of monasteries, where monks sat in meditation, their minds focused on the nature of existence, and under the canopy of ancient Bodhi trees, their branches whispering in the breeze, providing shade and sanctuary to those seeking wisdom. In these places, the Buddha emphasized the art of right speech, a practice that forms one of the pillars of the Noble Eightfold Path and is intricately woven into the very fabric of Buddhist practice. He taught that our words hold immense power, and with this power comes great responsibility. Words, he explained, are not just sounds or symbols. They are the building blocks of our reality. With them, we have the ability to create and to destroy, to uplift or to harm. He urged his followers to recognize this duality and to awaken to the potential within their speech. In his teachings, he likened words to tools. When wielded with care and intention, they can build bridges, heal wounds, and foster deep understanding. But when used carelessly or with malice, they can become weapons that divide, wound, and destroy. As the Buddha spoke to his disciples and to the crowds that gathered around him, he implored them to see beyond the immediacy of their words and to understand their lasting impact. He called for mindfulness, urging everyone to cultivate a practice of speaking truthfully, kindly, and with purpose. In this way, he invited his followers to become artisans of speech, consciously shaping their reality and the world around them with each word they chose to speak. Imagine, if you will, a world where every word spoken is like a seed planted in fertile soil. Picture fields stretching endlessly, each plot filled with seeds representing conversations, promises, and expressions of thoughts and emotions. Some of these seeds sprout into magnificent trees, their branches reaching toward the sky, providing shelter, shade, and nourishment. These trees become havens for birds, offer fruit to the hungry, and give solace to weary travelers. They represent words spoken with kindness, truth, and compassion, words that nurture relationships, build trust, and create a sense of belonging. However, in the same world, other seeds take root and grow into tangled weeds. These weeds spread quickly, choking the life around them and taking over the landscape. They symbolize words spoken in anger, deceit, or thoughtlessness, words that divide, harm, and spread negativity. These weeds become obstacles, making it difficult for anything of value to grow, disrupting the harmony of the world. In this world, the power of speech is not merely an abstract idea. It is the very force that shapes relationships, communities, and even the health of our own minds and bodies. The Buddha's message was clear. The way we speak is not a trivial matter. It is a path toward enlightenment or suffering. He taught that every word we choose to speak either nourishes or poisons the soil in which it is planted. Through wise and mindful speech, we have the power to cultivate a garden of peace, love, and understanding. But through careless or harmful words, we can create a field overrun with discord, pain, and regret. The Buddha illustrated that just as a farmer tends to the earth, carefully choosing which seeds to plant, we too must tend to our words, understanding their potential to transform or destroy. He urged his followers to see their words as living forces, to be mindful of what they sow, for it is through speech that we either uplift and create harmony or sow division and suffering. He taught that speech should be truthful, kind, and purposeful. In a teaching circle one day, under the shade of a great Bodhi tree and surrounded by his disciples, the Buddha posed a simple yet profound question. Is it true? Is it kind? Is it necessary? The air was still as the monks reflected upon these words, their minds turning over the significance of such a simple inquiry. These three questions became the cornerstone of wise speech, a practice that requires constant mindfulness and deep introspection. Imagine the scene as the Buddha's voice carried through the grove, blending with the rustling leaves and the distant sounds of life in the village beyond. His disciples, some of whom had journeyed for days to hear his teachings, sat in contemplation, realizing the weight of their everyday words. They began to understand that speech was not just a means of communication, but a tool that could build or break, heal or harm, depending on its intention. The questions, is it true? Is it kind? Is it necessary? Were not merely guidelines but a profound call to mindfulness, asking them to examine the intention behind every word before it left their lips. By holding each word to this standard, the Buddha explained, we learn to use our voice as an instrument of peace. Words become tools for bridging gaps, for fostering understanding and harmony, rather than weapons that divide and injure. He likened wise speech to the work of a skilled craftsman. Just as a carpenter carefully chooses each piece of wood and shapes it with precision to create something beautiful, so too must we choose our words, ensuring that they are shaped with care, intention, and compassion. The Buddha shared stories of those who had transformed their lives through mindful speech. He spoke of a merchant who had once been known for his harsh and critical words, which alienated his friends and customers. After hearing the Buddha's teachings, the merchant began to practice asking himself, is it true? Is it kind? Is it necessary? Before speaking. Over time, his words softened, his relationships mended, and his business flourished as he became known not just for his wares, but for his wisdom and kindness. In another tale, a young monk struggled with impulsive speech, often blurting out thoughts without considering their impact. Guided by the Buddha's teaching, he started pausing before speaking, reflecting on whether his words aligned with truth, kindness, and necessity. The shift was not immediate. It required patience, practice, and a willingness to confront the habits of a lifetime. But with time, his speech transformed. Becoming a source of comfort and insight for others, he became a bridge in his community, bringing people together through his gentle words and mindful presence. The Buddha emphasized that this practice is not just about avoiding harm, but about actively using our speech to bring light into the world. By practicing truthful, kind, and purposeful speech, we align our words with our deepest values and intentions. We become like gardeners, sowing seeds of harmony and connection, building a foundation of trust and nurturing understanding wherever we go. He taught that when our words are grounded in truth, they carry a power that resonates and lasts. When our speech is kind, it touches hearts and fosters unity. And when it is purposeful, it becomes a guiding force, illuminating the path for ourselves and others. In this way, our voice can become a tool for building bridges, healing rifts, and fostering a deeper sense of connection among people, transforming not just our immediate relationships, but the larger world around us. To illustrate these principles, the Buddha shared a story about a young monk known for his sharp tongue and quick temper. This monk had a habit of criticizing others, often finding fault and expressing his frustrations openly. His words, though sometimes insightful, were often laced with anger, creating a sense of unease and division within the community. While he excelled in meditation and other practices, his speech undid much of the harmony he sought to cultivate. Fellow monks, although admiring his dedication, found it difficult to be around him. His presence, instead of being a source of peace, became a point of tension wherever he went. One day, the Buddha called him aside, his voice gentle yet firm. He said, "A person's speech is like a mirror. It reflects the mind's state. If your mind harbors anger, judgment, or frustration, it will show in your words, just as a turbulent river disturbs the surface, creating ripples that extend far beyond the point of impact." The young monk listened, his face a mix of surprise and shame, as the truth of the Buddha's words settled within him. The Buddha continued, "Imagine the damage a single angry word can cause. It is like a sharp stone thrown into a still pond. The ripples spread outward, disrupting the calm and reaching further than you might imagine. But if the mind is like a still, clear lake, undisturbed by anger or resentment, then even when words are spoken, they are calm, kind, and gentle, creating no ripples of harm." Humbled, the monk reflected on his behavior. He realized that while he had devoted himself to meditation and the teachings of the Buddha, he had neglected the practice of right speech. His critical words were not just harming others, but were a reflection of his own inner turmoil. He understood that true mastery of the path required more than silent meditation. It required mindfulness in every word, every action, and every intention. From that day forward, he began practicing mindfulness with renewed focus, not only observing his speech, but also the thoughts that preceded his words. He learned to pause, to breathe, and to ask himself whether his words were necessary, truthful, and kind before speaking. In moments when anger flared, he chose silence, giving himself time to cool his emotions and reflect. Slowly, he noticed a change within himself. His thoughts became softer, more compassionate, and his words began to mirror this inner transformation. As the months passed, the transformation was remarkable. The young monk's speech, once sharp and cutting, became a source of comfort and wisdom for others. His fellow monks, who once avoided his presence, now sought his counsel, finding in his words a deep sense of understanding and empathy. He became known not for his sharp tongue, but for his gentle wisdom, and his story spread through the monastery as an example of the power of mindfulness and the potential for change. The Buddha praised the young monk's efforts, saying, "The transformation of speech begins with the transformation of the mind. When you cultivate patience, compassion, and mindfulness within, your words will naturally follow. Just as a flower blooms only when it receives sunlight and water, so too will your speech blossom with the nourishment of a pure mind." The monk's journey showed that our words are not just an act, but a reflection of our inner state. When our minds are clouded with negativity, anger, jealousy, or judgment, our words become weapons that harm others and deepen our own suffering. But when we cultivate a mind of compassion, patience, and understanding, our words transform into tools of healing and connection. His story became a reminder to all who heard it that even the most difficult habits could be transformed through mindfulness, patience, and dedication to the path. This story reveals the essence of the Buddha's teaching. Our speech is not merely an act, it is a profound reflection of our inner state. It shows that our words, whether spoken in haste or with intention, are windows into our hearts and minds. When our thoughts are clouded by negativity, whether it be anger, jealousy, frustration, or ignorance, our words inevitably mirror those emotions, creating discord, misunderstanding, and pain. The harmful effects extend beyond the immediate moment. They leave a lasting impact, causing harm to others, deepening our own suffering, and creating ripples of negativity that spread far beyond the initial exchange. Imagine a bowl filled with murky water. When we stir it, the dirt rises and clouds the entire bowl, making everything unclear. This is akin to our minds when they are disturbed by negative emotions. The more we engage with these turbulent thoughts, the more they cloud our speech, turning our words into sharp, cutting tools that can wound others. Such speech not only causes pain to those around us, but also chains us to our own suffering, as each unkind word reinforces the negativity we hold within. The Buddha taught that these ripples of suffering begin with a single word, and that one word, if left unchecked, can grow into a cycle of harm that affects both speaker and listener alike. Conversely, when our mind is cultivated with compassion, patience, and wisdom, our words transform into tools of healing, bringing light, connection, and understanding. Just as a serene lake reflects the sky above in perfect clarity, so too does a calm and mindful mind reflect kindness and truth in every word. When we nurture a heart full of compassion, even in the midst of challenges, our speech becomes a balm that soothes wounds rather than inflicts them. Words spoken from a place of understanding and empathy have the power to mend rifts, build trust, and create bonds that are unbreakable. In this light, the Buddha's teachings highlight that the work of transforming our speech begins with transforming our mind. By practicing mindfulness and cultivating positive states of being, such as love, compassion, and understanding, we create the conditions for wise and gentle speech. Our words then act as bridges, bringing people together and fostering a sense of harmony, rather than separating them or sowing discord. The Buddha often described the power of words as seeds. Seeds planted with intention and care grow into trees that provide shade, nourishment, and shelter, benefiting all who encounter them. On the other hand, seeds planted without thought or with malice become thorns that can harm and divide. The essence of his teaching is the reminder that we are all gardeners of our own speech. The words we choose to plant can either build a garden of harmony or a field of conflict. When we practice mindful speech, we choose to plant seeds of peace, truth, and compassion. And as we continue to nurture these seeds, our words become like gentle rain that nourishes the soil of human connection. In moments of difficulty, when emotions run high and the temptation to lash out is strong, it is the practice of mindfulness that helps us pause and consider the impact of our words. In that pause, we have the opportunity to choose words that align with our values and that contribute to a culture of understanding and kindness. The path of wise speech is one that requires ongoing effort and attention. It is not a destination reached overnight, but a continuous journey where each moment, each conversation, offers a new opportunity to practice. As we grow in awareness and compassion, our ability to use our words wisely becomes more natural, turning our speech into a powerful force for good in the world. The story of the young monk serves as a reminder that change is possible, and that with mindfulness, even the sharpest tongue can be softened. It teaches us that our words have the power to heal wounds, build bridges, and illuminate the lives of those around us, proving that the transformation of speech is, at its core, a transformation of the heart. The Noble Eightfold Path, central to the Buddha's teachings, serves as a guide to ethical living, and right speech is one of its pillars. It emphasizes that ethical conduct begins with our words. It's not merely about avoiding lies or hurtful comments, it's about actively choosing words that promote peace and understanding. The Buddha identified 4 types of speech to avoid: lying, divisive speech, harsh speech, and idle chatter. Lying, he taught, creates a false reality and erodes trust. Even small lies, told with seemingly good intentions, can create confusion and distrust, unraveling the delicate fabric of relationships. Imagine building a house on a foundation of sand. It may stand for a while, but eventually it will crumble under its own weight. The Buddha explained that truth is like a strong, unshakable foundation, one that holds firm even during life's storms. It is the bedrock upon which all healthy relationships and communities are built, and without it, the structure of trust collapses. In one of his teachings, the Buddha told a story of a merchant who, out of greed, often lied about the quality of his goods. At first, his business thrived. He painted his wares with glowing descriptions, exaggerating their value and durability. His customers, eager to believe his words, flocked to his shop, and he became wealthy. However, as time passed, people began to notice that the goods they had purchased were not as promised. Pots cracked, fabrics frayed, and tools broke sooner than expected. Slowly, whispers of the merchant's dishonesty spread through the town like wildfire. One day, a trusted elder in the village, whose influence was well respected, publicly confronted the merchant, sharing his own experience of being deceived. His voice carried weight, and it resonated with others who had suffered the same fate. People felt betrayed. They realized they had been victims of the merchant's lies, and the sense of community trust that once surrounded his business shattered. Customers stopped visiting his shop, preferring to buy from others who had earned their trust through honest practices, even if their prices were higher or their goods less ornate. The merchant's wealth, which had seemed so secure, quickly diminished. The once busy shop, filled with the noise of customers and the clinking of coins, became silent. Dust settled on the unsold wares, and the merchant found himself alone, staring at the empty doorways and wondering where it had all gone wrong. It was a poignant reminder that dishonesty, no matter how small or seemingly inconsequential, corrodes the fabric of community and eventually isolates those who wield it. The Buddha used this tale to illustrate that lies, like seeds of weeds, may seem harmless at first, but they grow, entangle, and eventually choke the garden of our lives. Honesty, on the other hand, is like planting a strong, healthy tree. Its roots grow deep, its branches provide shelter, and its presence offers shade and protection to all. When we commit to truthfulness, we nourish the soil of our relationships, allowing trust and understanding to flourish. The Buddha further explained that honesty is not merely about refraining from blatant falsehoods, it is also about integrity, ensuring that our actions and words align with our values and intentions. Even seemingly harmless lies, such as exaggerating our abilities or hiding mistakes, can create cracks in our character. Over time, these cracks deepen, making it harder to maintain authentic connections with others. He shared another story about a young man who lied to impress his peers. He would boast of his wealth, knowledge, and connections, weaving elaborate tales of adventures and accomplishments that weren't true. At first, people admired him, but as his stories grew more fantastical, they began to doubt him. One day, when he was called upon to demonstrate the skills he had claimed to possess, he failed, and his reputation crumbled instantly. The humiliation was profound, and those who once sought his company now avoided him. The young man felt the sting of isolation, realizing that his desire to appear greater than he was had left him with nothing but an empty shell of friendships and broken trust. The Buddha taught that honesty should be embraced not out of fear of consequences, but because it aligns with the path to enlightenment. By choosing truthfulness, we free ourselves from the burden of deceit, which weighs down the mind and complicates our lives. Lies, like heavy stones, accumulate and grow, requiring us to constantly remember and uphold them. Truth, in contrast, is simple and liberating. It needs no maintenance, and it radiates clarity and peace. In his teachings, the Buddha encouraged his followers to reflect on the consequences of even the smallest lies. He asked them to imagine the long-term impact of dishonesty, not just on others, but on their own hearts. When we lie, we may think we are protecting ourselves or gaining something, but in reality, we are sowing seeds of doubt within ourselves. We know deep down that we have deviated from our path, and this knowledge disrupts our peace of mind. The Buddha also spoke of the transformative power of honesty. He reminded his disciples that truth has the ability to heal and restore broken bonds. He shared the story of another merchant, one who had been honest all his life, but was accused of deceit when his goods failed due to an unforeseen flaw. Rather than reacting defensively or denying the accusation, he admitted the mistake, apologized sincerely, and offered to make amends. His openness and willingness to take responsibility not only repaired his reputation, but also deepened the trust people had in him. The villagers appreciated his humility and transparency, and his business flourished more than ever before. The Buddha used this example to illustrate that, while honesty might not always bring immediate rewards, it fosters long-term respect, trust, and connection. The Buddha's message was clear. Truth is not just about avoiding lies. It is about living in alignment with reality, being transparent, and cultivating trust. It is the key to building a life where our relationships, both personal and communal, are strong, resilient, and filled with mutual respect. Divisive speech, the second form, is like a fire that spreads and destroys unity, leaving scars that can take years to heal. Gossip, rumors, and words meant to sow discord have a destructive power that separates friends, families, and communities, creating invisible walls that prevent reconciliation and harmony. The Buddha emphasized the profound responsibility that comes with speech, urging his followers to become like bridges, not walls. He encouraged them to use their words as tools to bring people together, to heal rifts, and to build understanding. Words, he said, can either bind us in chains of misunderstanding or liberate us into realms of connection and peace. To illustrate the power of divisive speech, the Buddha shared the story of two neighboring villages that had been locked in a feud for generations. The origins of the conflict were almost forgotten, but the hostility lingered, passed down from one generation to the next like an heirloom of resentment. Villagers would avoid each other on the paths. Children were forbidden to play together, and any attempt at trade or cooperation was met with suspicion and distrust. The fields that lay between the villages, once fertile grounds for harvest, had become barren and neglected, symbolizing the emotional wasteland between the people. A monk dedicated to the path of peace and unity arrived at this troubled place. Seeing the pain and division that haunted the villages, he set out on a mission to heal the rift. But he knew that peace would not come through force or confrontation. Instead, he used the power of speech, kind, truthful, and compassionate words, to slowly mend the divide. He started by visiting each village separately, listening to their grievances, their stories of hurt and their fears. He did not judge or criticize, but listened with empathy, understanding the roots of their suffering. When he spoke, his words were gentle, aiming to soothe rather than ignite. He shared stories of other communities that had found strength in unity, reminding them of the shared humanity that existed beyond their differences. His voice was like a soothing balm, softening the hardened hearts of those who listened. The monk made it his mission to speak only of the positive qualities of each village when he was in the other. He highlighted their shared values, their common heritage, and the benefits that could come from working together rather than against each other. Gradually, his words began to take root. He organized gatherings where people from both villages were invited, encouraging them to speak to one another and share their stories. At first, only a few brave souls attended, but as the monk continued his efforts, more people began to come, curious about what they could learn. They listened to each other's stories, and for the first time in generations, they heard the pain and hopes of the people they had once called enemies. The walls of resentment started to crumble as they realized they were not so different after all. The monk's words, filled with empathy and understanding, became the foundation upon which the villages rebuilt their relationship. He emphasized that unity did not mean erasing differences, but embracing them, allowing each side to be heard and valued. His patience and dedication were unwavering. He would remind them that, like healing an old wound, the process would take time and care. He taught them to replace harsh words with those of encouragement and understanding, showing how words could be like water that quenches the fires of anger. Over time, the villagers began to visit each other's markets, share their harvests, and even celebrate festivals together. The fields that lay between the villages, once barren and desolate, were cultivated once again, becoming a symbol of their renewed partnership. The children, who had once been kept apart, now played together, unburdened by the weight of past conflicts. The once bitter rivals became allies, united by the monk's patient guidance and the power of kind, truthful speech. The Buddha's story of the two villages served as a reminder that while divisive speech can tear communities apart, words spoken with love and compassion have the power to heal and unite. He taught that when we speak, we must be mindful of our intentions. Are we speaking to bring people together, or are we driven by anger, jealousy, or the desire for power? He warned that gossip, rumors, and hateful words are like poison, spreading not only to those who hear them, but also to those who speak them, corrupting the heart and mind. He further explained that the ripple effect of divisive speech extends beyond immediate relationships. When we spread rumors or speak harshly about others, we create an atmosphere of fear and mistrust that permeates families, communities, and even entire societies. Like a drop of ink spreading through clear water, the negativity taints everything it touches. Even those who are not directly involved in the conflict feel its effects, as the energy of discord spreads and infects the hearts of those around it. The Buddha encouraged his followers to become beacons of harmony in their communities, using their words to cultivate peace. He taught that just as a skilled gardener tends to the plants, nurturing them with care and attention, so too must we cultivate our speech, ensuring that our words sow seeds of connection and understanding rather than conflict and separation. He said that when we speak with the intention to heal, to unite, and to uplift. Our words become like gentle rain, nourishing the soil of human relationships and allowing trust and compassion to grow. To practice this, the Buddha advised engaging in reflective practices, asking ourselves before we speak, will my words bring people together or push them apart? He encouraged his disciples to practice the art of listening, to truly hear others without judgment, and to respond with words that acknowledge and validate the feelings of those they interact with. Through this practice, he taught, we can build bridges where once there were walls, turning enemies into allies and transforming divided communities into united ones. This story of the monk and the two villages remains a powerful reminder that words have the power to shape the world. They can be used to fuel conflict, or to create peace, to spread hatred, or to foster love. The choice lies in how we wield them. The Buddha's teachings urge us to choose wisely, to be conscious of the energy we emit with every word we speak, and to be aware of the impact those words have long after they are spoken. Harsh speech, the third form, is perhaps the most damaging, for its effects often go deeper than physical wounds, leaving emotional and psychological scars that may take years to heal. The Buddha taught that words spoken in anger or bitterness are like arrows. They pierce the heart and cause pain that lingers long after the moment has passed. Unlike physical wounds, which can be treated and healed over time, the damage caused by harsh words can remain, altering relationships and creating emotional barriers. Once spoken, he said, a harsh word cannot be taken back, and its impact can ripple through a lifetime. He explained that the energy behind our words carries weight, especially when those words are fueled by anger, frustration, or resentment. The impact of harsh speech can manifest in various ways: damaged relationships, broken trust, and deep emotional pain. The Buddha urged his followers to practice restraint, to cultivate patience and gentleness, even in the most difficult of conversations. By doing so, they could transform their words from weapons into instruments of healing, like a soothing balm rather than a sharp blade. To illustrate this, the Buddha told a story of a woman named Anjali who, in a moment of rage, lashed out at her closest friend, Mira. The two women had been inseparable since childhood, their bond like that of sisters. But one day, during a disagreement, Anjali's temper flared, and she spoke words filled with anger and cruelty. Though Mira forgave her, the harshness of those words lingered in her heart. Even as they tried to move past the argument, there was a silent distance between them, a wall that had not existed before. The Buddha used this story to highlight the nature of harsh speech. It has the power to sever connections, even when forgiveness is offered. The wounds inflicted by such words may not be visible, but they are felt deeply, and the scars they leave can be lasting. Anjali, recognizing the rift her words had caused, felt a heavy burden of guilt. She reflected on the Buddha's teachings, realizing that her outburst was not just a reaction to the situation, but a reflection of her own inner turmoil. She understood that her harsh words were like fire. Once unleashed, they not only burned her friend, but also scorched her own spirit. Determined to make amends, Anjali sought Mira's forgiveness once again, but this time with a heart full of sincerity and a vow to change. She began practicing mindfulness in her speech, becoming acutely aware of her emotions before they spilled out into words. She meditated on compassion, focusing on the power of gentle speech and the ways in which her words could either heal or harm. Over time, as she consciously chose to speak with kindness and understanding, the distance between her and Mira slowly dissolved. They rebuilt their friendship, this time on a foundation of trust and mindful communication. Anjali's journey was not just about reconciling with her friend, but also about transforming herself and her approach to speaking. The Buddha explained that practicing restraint in speech is a form of self-discipline, one that requires inner strength and awareness. It is easy to react with harshness when emotions are high, but true wisdom lies in pausing, taking a deep breath, and responding with intention rather than impulse. He encouraged his followers to see every challenging conversation as an opportunity to practice this discipline. When we choose gentleness over aggression, we create a space for healing and understanding, not just for the other person, but also for ourselves. He also taught that the habit of harsh speech often originates from unresolved anger or pain within ourselves. When we lash out, it is usually a projection of our own suffering. By addressing the root of our anger through mindfulness and meditation, we can begin to transform our speech. He advised his followers to look inward, to sit with their discomfort, and to find the source of their frustrations. By doing so, they could prevent harsh words from arising in the first place. The Buddha's teachings on harsh speech extended beyond personal relationships to include our broader communities and societies. He explained that when leaders or influential figures use harsh words, the impact is magnified, affecting not only the individuals involved, but the entire community. He told of a kingdom where the ruler, known for his quick temper and harsh tongue, often berated his ministers and subjects. His angry outbursts created an atmosphere of fear and resentment, leading to unrest and disloyalty among his people. The kingdom, once prosperous, began to crumble as the seeds of anger sown by the king's words took root. One day, a wise monk visited the kingdom and offered to speak with the ruler. He shared the Buddha's teachings, explaining that a leader's words have the power to either unite or divide, to inspire or to incite fear. The monk advised the king to practice patience, to speak thoughtfully, and to consider the long-term impact of his words. The king, humbled by the monk's wisdom, decided to change his ways. He began holding council meetings where he listened more and spoke less, choosing his words with care and focusing on solutions rather than criticism. Over time, the atmosphere in the kingdom changed, trust was rebuilt, and prosperity returned. The king's transformation became a lesson in how a single person's commitment to gentle speech can transform an entire community. The Buddha's message was clear. Harsh speech, once unleashed, has consequences that ripple far beyond the moment it is spoken. It can create divides that take years to heal and wounds that may never fully mend. He taught that by practicing gentleness, we not only protect those around us, but also cultivate peace within ourselves. The effort to speak with kindness, even when it feels difficult, is a practice of compassion and wisdom, a way to align our actions with our deepest values. He encouraged his followers to adopt specific practices to cultivate gentle speech. One such practice was the pause. Before speaking, especially in moments of anger or frustration, he advised taking a deep breath and pausing to reflect. In that moment of stillness, we have the opportunity to choose our words mindfully, ensuring they align with our intention to build rather than to destroy. Another practice he taught was to visualize the impact of our words. Before speaking, he urged his followers to imagine their words as seeds. Would they grow into flowers or thorns? Would they bring light or cast shadows? By integrating these practices into daily life, his followers learned to transform their communication. Harsh speech became less frequent, and the energy of their words shifted from anger to compassion. The Buddha explained that while it is natural to feel anger, we have the power to choose how we express it. By channeling our emotions through the lens of mindfulness and compassion, we can transform moments of conflict into opportunities for growth and healing. This teaching on harsh speech serves as a timeless reminder of the power and responsibility that comes with the spoken word. The Buddha's message invites us to be mindful of our speech, not just in moments of calm, but especially when we are faced with anger or frustration. It is in those moments that the true test of our practice lies. By choosing gentleness, we honor the humanity in ourselves and in others, paving the way for deeper connection, healing, and peace. Lastly, idle chatter, speech without purpose, presents a subtle yet significant challenge. The Buddha's teachings on this form of speech remain profoundly relevant, especially in our modern world, where we are surrounded by constant chatter and digital noise. Social media, instant messaging, and endless streams of information have created an environment where silence is rare, and the temptation to engage in idle, often meaningless conversation is ever present. The Buddha clarified that his teaching was not an attempt to eliminate all forms of casual conversation, as social interaction is a natural and important part of human life. He acknowledged the value of friendly exchanges and light-hearted moments, as these can strengthen bonds and build a sense of community. However, he emphasized that even these interactions should be approached mindfully, ensuring that our words carry intention and meaning rather than being mere fillers for silence. Idle chatter, as he explained, is not just harmless noise. It can become a distraction that pulls us away from what is essential in life. It scatters the mind, diverting our attention from mindfulness and the pursuit of inner peace. When our conversations lack depth, we may find ourselves becoming lost in trivialities, discussing matters that neither enrich our minds nor serve a higher purpose. Over time, engaging in such chatter can lead to a habit of distraction, where our minds remain perpetually occupied with the superficial, leaving little room for self-reflection, growth, or true connection. The Buddha illustrated the impact of idle chatter through the story of two friends, Ravi and Kumar, who spent much of their time together gossiping about others in their village. They talked about people's flaws, the latest rumors, and other trivial matters. Though they enjoyed these conversations at first, they began to notice that their friendship felt shallow. They were constantly caught up in negativity and petty concerns, and their connection seemed to lack the depth and meaning it once had. One day, a monk passing through the village overheard them and gently asked, "Do your words bring you peace? Do they bring joy to those who hear them?" Ravi and Kumar, reflecting on this question, realized that their conversations had become a source of distraction and dissatisfaction, keeping them from experiencing a deeper sense of connection with each other and with themselves. To combat this, the Buddha advised incorporating moments of silence into our lives, a practice that has become even more crucial in the fast-paced, digitally driven environment we live in today. He suggested setting aside specific times of the day for silence, moments when we disconnect from conversation and the distractions around us to focus inwardly. By taking these intentional pauses, we allow the mind to rest, reset, and become more receptive to deeper insights and understandings. These moments of silence act as a sanctuary, providing space to recharge and to reconnect with the essence of who we are beyond the noise. The Buddha also encouraged the practice of noble silence, especially during meditation and spiritual gatherings. Noble silence is not merely the absence of speech, but a state of mindful presence. It is an opportunity to observe our thoughts without reacting, to listen deeply to the silence within, and to cultivate a sense of peace that transcends words. In noble silence, we learn that communication goes beyond the spoken word. It is the energy we share, the understanding we build, and the compassion we cultivate within ourselves and with others. For many, practicing silence may seem challenging, especially in a world that equates constant communication with productivity and engagement. However, the Buddha taught that silence is not about withdrawal or isolation, but about cultivating awareness. It is about recognizing when to speak and when to listen, not only to others, but also to the still voice within. In silence, we become more attuned to the subtleties of life, the rustling of leaves, the sound of our breath, and the thoughts that arise and fade away. We develop a deeper understanding of ourselves and our surroundings, realizing that the most profound insights often emerge not from words, but from the spaces between them. The Buddha further emphasized that by reducing idle chatter, we create opportunities for more meaningful exchanges. When we speak less frequently but with greater intention, our words gain power. They become like precious stones, rare and valuable, capable of uplifting and inspiring those around us. He encouraged his followers to be like artisans, carefully choosing their words and crafting their conversations to serve a higher purpose, whether that be to comfort, inspire, educate, or build a bridge of understanding. In modern terms, the Buddha's teaching on idle chatter invites us to be mindful of our digital speech as well. He would remind us that every tweet, post, and comment carries energy, just like spoken words. Before we engage online, we can pause and ask ourselves, is this post meaningful? Is it uplifting? Is it necessary? By bringing mindfulness into our digital interactions, we can transform our online presence from a source of distraction into a space of connection and positivity. The practice of reducing idle chatter also opens up opportunities for active listening, a key aspect of mindful communication. When we are less focused on filling every silence, we become more present in conversations, allowing others to speak and be heard. Active listening not only deepens our relationships, but also enriches our understanding of others, fostering a sense of empathy and connection. We learn to appreciate the value of every word spoken and the importance of being fully present when we engage with others. The Buddha's teaching encourages us to find balance, understanding when speech is necessary and when silence is the better path. He suggested that sometimes the most powerful communication is silence itself. In silence, we convey respect, understanding, and acceptance. We give space for others to express themselves, and we honor the depth of human experience that words cannot always capture. This mindful approach to communication allows for a richer, more meaningful exchange of ideas and emotions, creating a more harmonious and peaceful environment. By practicing silence and mindful speech, we also cultivate a greater sense of inner peace. Without the need to constantly engage in conversation, our minds become more spacious and our awareness deepens. We begin to notice the beauty in simplicity and find comfort in the quiet moments of our lives. This practice of silence becomes a refuge, a place where we can retreat to reconnect with ourselves and the essence of the world around us. The Buddha's message on idle chatter is not about eliminating speech, but about enhancing the quality of our communication. It is about speaking with intention, listening with presence, and embracing silence as a powerful tool for growth and connection. By weaving these practices into our daily lives, we not only create space for meaningful exchanges, but also cultivate a deeper, more peaceful relationship with ourselves and others. The true art of communication, as the Buddha taught, lies in knowing when to speak and when to embrace the wisdom of silence. As we navigate the complexities of daily life, the practice of wise speech becomes a profound tool for personal and collective transformation. In a world filled with distractions, misunderstandings, and emotional triggers, our words have the power to either exacerbate conflict or create harmony. The Buddha's teachings on wise speech encourage us to slow down, to step back, and to pause before we speak. This practice is not merely about choosing the right words. It is about cultivating an awareness of our intentions and the impact our words will have. Imagine a moment when emotions run high, perhaps a heated discussion with a colleague or a disagreement with a loved one. The instinct to react, to defend ourselves, or to lash out is strong. But wise speech invites us to breathe, to create a pause. In this pause, we have the space to reflect. Are we speaking to uplift, to connect, or to satisfy our ego? Are our words born out of compassion and understanding, or are they rooted in frustration and the desire to be right? This pause is a sacred space, a moment where we can decide how we want to contribute to the world, whether we choose to be a force for peace or for division. The power of this moment of reflection cannot be overstated. It is in this space that we find the freedom to choose words that build rather than destroy, that heal rather than harm. This is the essence of mindful speech, the awareness that our words are not fleeting expressions, but seeds that grow into the reality we and those around us live in. By taking this pause, we cultivate the ability to respond with wisdom rather than react impulsively. This practice, however, is not easy. It requires continuous mindfulness and a deep commitment to self-awareness. The Buddha taught that in this space of reflection, we must examine not only the words we are about to speak, but also the motivations behind them. Are we seeking connection, or are we trying to assert power? Are we aiming to foster understanding, or are we driven by the need to protect our pride? It is through this honest introspection that we begin to transform our speech and ultimately our lives. The power of wise speech extends beyond personal interactions. It influences the larger communities and societies we are a part of. In moments of collective tension, be it in the workplace, in social movements, or within families, those who practice mindful speech have the capacity to de-escalate conflicts and foster understanding. Their words can act as bridges, bringing people together and opening paths for constructive dialogue. Over time, as we consistently choose to speak mindfully, we not only transform our relationships, but also cultivate a deep inner peace. Knowing that our words align with our values and contribute to harmony, we find ourselves living more authentically and compassionately. In this way, the practice of wise speech becomes a tool not only for personal growth, but for the creation of a more compassionate and connected world. In one teaching session, the Buddha introduced a powerful visualization practice to help his followers cultivate mindful speech. Gathering his disciples under the shade of a large Bodhi tree, he asked them to close their eyes and embark on a journey within their minds. "Imagine," he said softly, "a garden within you. This garden is the space of your mind and heart, a place where every word you speak plants a seed." He paused, allowing the image to settle in their consciousness. He continued, guiding them deeper into the visualization. With each kind word, see a lotus flower bloom, its petals unfurling, its fragrance filling the air. Feel the warmth of the sun nourishing it, and see how it brings light, peace, and beauty to your garden. His voice painted vivid images, and the disciples could almost smell the delicate scent of the blooming flowers, feel the softness of their petals as they imagined the garden expanding with each compassionate word. But then his tone shifted, becoming more somber. "Now, imagine each harmful word as a seed of a thorny vine. See the vine sprouting, dark, twisted, and sharp. Notice how it wraps itself around the flowers, choking their growth and casting shadows over the garden. Feel how the air grows heavy, how the beauty fades, replaced by discomfort and pain." The disciples visualized the once vibrant and serene garden being overtaken by these harsh vines, their thorns cutting through the delicate flowers. This exercise was not merely an imaginative practice, it was a profound lesson in the power of speech. The Buddha emphasized that the garden was a reflection of their minds and hearts, a place where the words they chose to speak would either cultivate beauty and peace or create suffering and discord. "Every time we speak, we have a choice," he explained. "We can nourish our inner garden, allowing it to flourish with understanding and love, or we can let it become entangled with the thorns of anger and judgment." As the disciples practiced this visualization over time, they became more attuned to the impact of their speech. They noticed how speaking with gentleness and kindness made them feel lighter, as if their gardens were filling with vibrant colors and life. Conversely, they became aware of the heaviness that settled within them whenever they spoke harshly or with ill intent, sensing the thorny vines tightening their grip. One disciple, particularly moved by the exercise, shared his experience. He admitted that he often found himself quick to criticize others, feeling a sense of power in pointing out their flaws. But after practicing the visualization, he could no longer ignore the discomfort these words created in his own heart. He saw how his inner garden, once filled with potential for peace, had become overgrown with thorns. Determined to change, he began to choose his words carefully, focusing on speaking with the intention of nurturing rather than harming. Slowly he felt the garden of his mind transform, blooming once more with the beauty of compassion. This simple yet profound exercise became a cornerstone of practice for many of the Buddha's followers. By visualizing the immediate impact of their words, they learned to align their speech with their deepest values of kindness and understanding. Over time, they noticed not only changes in their own inner state, but also in their relationships with others. Conflicts that once seemed insurmountable began to dissolve, replaced by a sense of connection and mutual respect. The garden visualization became more than a tool for mindful speech. It was a reminder of the interconnectedness between inner and outer worlds. The disciples understood that the peace they cultivated within themselves, through the careful tending of their words, extended outward into their communities, creating ripples of harmony that touched everyone they encountered. And so the practice continued to evolve. The disciples incorporated it into their daily lives, using it as a way to start and end each day. Before speaking, they would take a moment to close their eyes and envision their inner garden, asking themselves whether the words they were about to speak would plant a lotus or a thorn. This simple practice became a sacred ritual, grounding them in the teachings of the Buddha and helping them navigate the challenges of life with grace and mindfulness. In this way, the garden of the mind became a living, breathing testament to the power of words. The disciples saw their own transformation, mirrored in the flourishing beauty within their hearts, a beauty that extended beyond themselves, shaping their world one kind word at a time. The practice of mindful speech is deeply interconnected with other elements of the Buddhist path, such as mindfulness, sati, and ethical conduct, sila. In Buddhism, mindfulness is not just about sitting in meditation. It is the practice of being fully present in every moment, fully aware of our thoughts, emotions, and actions as they arise. It is about cultivating a continuous awareness, a state of being where one is attuned to the flow of experience without judgment or distraction. When applied to speech, mindfulness transforms our communication into a sacred act. It becomes a way to observe and understand the impact of our words before they even leave our lips. Imagine standing at the edge of a still pond, holding a stone in your hand. Before you cast it, you are aware of the ripple it will create and how it will alter the calm surface of the water. In the same way, practicing mindful speech allows us to pause and consider the ripples our words will send into the world. The Buddha taught that speech is one of the most powerful expressions of our inner state. It carries energy, intention, and emotion, capable of shaping the reality around us. When we practice mindfulness in speech, we become conscious communicators, aware of the energy and impact we are putting into the world with each word we utter. This awareness invites us to choose our words with care, ensuring they align with our intentions to cultivate peace, compassion, and understanding. Consider the act of listening, an often overlooked aspect of communication. In mindful speech, listening is not a passive act, but an active, engaged practice. It requires the same depth of presence and awareness as speaking. When we listen mindfully, we open ourselves fully to the other person, setting aside judgments, distractions, and our desire to respond immediately. We create a space of deep connection, allowing us to truly understand the speaker's emotions and intentions. This kind of mindful listening not only strengthens relationships, but also reduces misunderstandings and conflicts, fostering a culture of empathy and compassion. The Buddha emphasized that to speak mindfully, one must first cultivate an awareness of the thoughts and emotions that precede speech. Often, words arise from a place of automatic reaction, anger, fear, or impatience. By practicing mindfulness, we learn to recognize these impulses as they form, creating a moment of pause where we can decide whether to speak, and if so, how to express ourselves in a way that aligns with our values. This pause, brief as it may be, is transformative. It is in this space that we have the power to reshape our interactions, turning potential conflict into an opportunity for understanding and connection. Instead of allowing reactive speech to dominate, a sharp retort, a defensive remark, we have the chance to respond with clarity, calmness, and kindness. This shift not only affects the immediate conversation, but also contributes to a more harmonious and supportive environment, whether at home, in the workplace, or within the larger community. For instance, a monk once approached the Buddha, troubled by a recent argument with a fellow disciple. The monk confessed that in the heat of the moment he had spoken harshly, and the words had left a wound in their relationship. The Buddha guided him to reflect on the moment before the words were spoken. In that space, the Buddha said, you have the power to choose the direction of your speech. It can be like fire, burning everything in its path, or like water, cooling and soothing. Mindfulness gives you that choice. Through regular practice, the monk began to observe his impulses more closely. He learned to recognize the tightening in his chest or the surge of heat that preceded anger. These sensations became his signals to pause, to breathe, and to choose his words mindfully. Over time, his speech transformed from reactive to responsive, helping to mend not only the relationship with his fellow disciple, but also bringing a sense of peace to his own mind. In this way, mindfulness acts as a bridge between our inner state and the world around us. It helps us to align our speech with our deeper intentions and aspirations, ensuring that our words are not just sounds, but purposeful expressions that uplift and connect. The practice becomes a form of ethical conduct, sila, as it guides us to speak in ways that reflect our commitment to honesty, kindness, and integrity. Moreover, the practice of mindful speech extends beyond spoken words. In today's world, where digital communication is pervasive, mindfulness becomes even more crucial. Whether we are writing an email, posting on social media, or sending a text message, the principles remain the same. We pause, reflect on our intention, and consider the impact of our words before we communicate. By doing so, we carry the teachings of mindful speech into every aspect of our interactions, both online and offline. The interconnectedness of mindful speech with the broader Buddhist path highlights that the way we communicate is not separate from our spiritual practice. It is an integral part of it. Just as meditation helps to cultivate awareness of the mind, mindful speech brings that awareness into action, allowing us to live with greater compassion, understanding, and peace. Consider a modern example, a heated argument with a loved one. Emotions flare, voices rise, and it's easy to react impulsively, to let words slip out that sting and linger long after the moment has passed. In the heat of the moment, we may feel justified in our response, believing that releasing our anger through sharp words will make us feel better. Yet, more often than not, those words deepen the rift, creating scars that take time and effort to heal. The damage caused by words spoken in anger is not just a fleeting moment. It can leave a lasting impression that reshapes the relationship, often in ways we didn't intend. But imagine if, instead of reacting instantly, we practiced mindfulness, a skill that, over time, becomes a buffer between thought and speech. By cultivating this practice, we create a pause, a space in which we can breathe and observe what is happening within us. In that brief, precious moment, we are no longer controlled by the intensity of our emotions. We have the power to step back and recognize the anger or frustration rising within us. We acknowledge these emotions without judgment, understanding that they are part of the human experience but do not have to define our actions. In this pause, we gain the clarity to make a conscious choice. We can ask ourselves, what is my intention here? Do I want to be right, or do I want to be kind? Do I want to win this argument, or do I want to preserve this relationship? By taking a deep breath, we shift from a reactive state to a more thoughtful and compassionate one. This shift allows us to align our words with our deeper values, values of love, patience, and understanding. We remind ourselves that the person in front of us is someone we care about, and that preserving the relationship is more important than winning the argument. This practice doesn't mean suppressing our emotions or avoiding difficult conversations. Rather, it's about choosing how we express ourselves, ensuring that our words reflect our highest intentions. We might say, I'm feeling really upset right now, and I need a moment to gather my thoughts, instead of launching into accusations or criticisms. This approach not only diffuses the immediate tension, but also opens the door to a more constructive dialogue where both individuals can express themselves with respect and honesty. Over time, this practice transforms moments of potential conflict into opportunities for connection and healing. When we respond with mindful speech, we invite the other person to do the same. It becomes a cycle of understanding where both parties feel heard and valued. As we consistently practice this approach, it strengthens the bonds of trust and respect in our relationships, creating a foundation of mutual support and compassion. This is the essence of mindful speech. It empowers us to navigate challenging interactions with grace, turning what could be a moment of division into one of unity. It reminds us that every conversation is an opportunity to either build or break a connection. By choosing our words mindfully, we take responsibility for the energy we bring into our relationships, ensuring that our speech becomes a tool for healing, growth, and deeper understanding. Beyond personal transformation, the Buddha's teachings on wise speech have profound implications for our communities and societies. In today's digital age, where words travel faster than ever, the potential for both harm and healing is amplified. The power of a single tweet, post, or comment is immense. It can reach thousands, even millions, in mere seconds. This kind of instantaneous communication has the power to influence opinions, spark movements, and shape public perception. Yet it also carries the danger of spreading misinformation, inciting anger, or causing deep harm, often with the simple press of a button. The Buddha's teachings remind us that we must be as mindful of our digital speech as we are of the words we speak aloud. In the past, a harmful word might have affected only a small circle of people, but today, our digital words have the potential to reach audiences across the globe. A single comment posted in a moment of anger can spread like wildfire, causing misunderstandings, conflict, and division. Similarly, a careless remark or an unverified claim can lead to misinformation that not only misguides others, but also erodes trust in online communities. The Buddha's timeless wisdom offers a solution to this modern dilemma: mindful and intentional communication. Before we post, comment, or share online, we can apply the same principles he taught his followers thousands of years ago. We can pause and ask ourselves, is it true? Is it kind? Is it necessary? This simple yet profound filter can guide us in deciding whether our digital words will contribute positively to the conversation or cause unnecessary harm. Imagine a world where each online interaction is held to this standard. Instead of impulsive reactions, we would see a culture where people take a moment to reflect before engaging, ensuring their words align with their highest intentions. Kindness and understanding would become the norm rather than the exception. In such a world, online platforms would become spaces for genuine connection, where ideas are shared respectfully and people uplift each other rather than tearing each other down. The Buddha's teachings also encourage us to use our voice for good, to become agents of positive change. In the digital realm, this means using our platforms to spread messages of kindness, support, and unity. It's about recognizing the responsibility we have when our words have the power to reach so many. We can use this power to uplift others, to bring awareness to important causes, and to create a sense of community and solidarity. For instance, rather than sharing or engaging with content that spreads division or hate, we can choose to promote stories that inspire and connect. We can express gratitude, offer encouragement, and engage in constructive discussions that build bridges rather than walls. By doing so, we contribute to a culture of kindness and integrity that extends beyond the screen, fostering a more compassionate, understanding, and harmonious society both online and offline. This approach is not just about avoiding negativity, it's about actively choosing to be a source of light. In the same way that the Buddha taught his followers to cultivate inner peace and compassion, we too can extend those practices into the digital world. It's about seeing each interaction, each comment, as an opportunity to plant a seed of kindness or wisdom. When we consistently engage with mindfulness and positivity, we set an example that others may follow, creating ripples of change that spread far and wide. In essence, the Buddha's teachings on wise speech invite us to see our digital presence as a continuation of our spiritual practice. It is a call to be vigilant about the energy we put into the world, ensuring that our online actions are as considerate and intentional as those we practice in person. By doing so, we can transform our digital interactions into opportunities for connection, growth, and healing, making our online communities as sacred and mindful as the ancient temples and monasteries where these teachings were first shared. For those beginning their journey with wise speech, the path may indeed seem daunting and unfamiliar. Over the years, we may have developed patterns of communication, habits like gossiping, speaking impulsively, or using harsh words, that become so deeply ingrained they feel almost instinctual. These habits are often fueled by emotions like anger, jealousy, or insecurity, and they can emerge quickly, especially in moments of stress or frustration. Changing these patterns, then, can feel like an uphill battle, requiring constant awareness and effort. The Buddha acknowledged these challenges, teaching that the path of wise speech is not a quick fix, but a lifelong practice, a journey that unfolds over time. He understood that transformation is gradual and that each small step toward mindful speech is a victory. Just as a seedling takes time to grow into a tree, our practice of wise speech requires patience, care, and a nurturing environment. We must be willing to face our habits with honesty, yet also with compassion, understanding that change is a process and missteps are part of the journey. The Buddha often used the analogy of a gardener to describe this practice. A gardener doesn't expect a garden to flourish overnight. They know that cultivating a garden requires time and effort. Weeds must be pulled, soil enriched, and seeds watered regularly. In the same way, we must tend to our minds, pulling out the weeds of harmful speech habits and replacing them with flowers of compassion, patience, and understanding. It involves observing our thoughts and the emotions that trigger them, noticing how they influence our words. He advised beginners to start small, to practice observing their speech without judgment. For instance, after a conversation, one might reflect on the words spoken, asking, "Did my words bring comfort or harm? Was I speaking from a place of love, or was I reacting out of frustration?" This gentle self-reflection allows one to understand the roots of their speech patterns and to begin cultivating awareness. In one teaching, the Buddha shared a story of a farmer who was frustrated because his crops took longer to grow than he expected. The farmer tried to pull at the shoots, hoping to make them grow faster, but instead, he damaged them. The Buddha explained that in our practice too, we must not force change but allow it to happen naturally with patience and care. We must understand that sometimes we will speak unmindfully, and that's okay. What matters is that we recognize it, learn from it, and try again. Self-compassion is essential in this process. It's easy to become discouraged when we slip into old habits or when our words cause unintended harm. The Buddha taught that we should treat ourselves with the same kindness we wish to extend to others. If we speak harshly or act impulsively, we can acknowledge the mistake, forgive ourselves, and make a sincere effort to do better next time. By holding ourselves with compassion, we create a supportive inner environment where transformation can take root. Just as a gardener celebrates the small signs of growth in their garden, a new bud or the soft green of a young leaf, we can celebrate small victories in our practice. Perhaps we catch ourselves before speaking in anger, taking a deep breath instead, or we choose to listen without interrupting when someone speaks. These small moments of mindful action are signs that our practice is blossoming, even if the full transformation is still to come. The Buddha emphasized that as our practice deepens, the effort becomes less strenuous. Over time, the mind becomes like fertile soil, ready to nurture seeds of compassion, wisdom, and understanding. Wise speech begins to flow more naturally, and the intention to speak with kindness becomes an ingrained part of who we are. Like a well-tended garden, our speech becomes a source of beauty, bringing peace, connection, and healing to ourselves and those around us. For those just starting, the path of wise speech is not about perfection, but about steady progress. Each moment offers a new opportunity to practice, to grow, and to cultivate a more compassionate way of communicating. By embracing the journey with patience and an open heart, we can transform not only our words, but the very way we interact with the world, planting seeds of harmony and understanding wherever we go. The Buddha's teachings offer us a timeless guide, a compass for navigating the complexities of human interaction with grace, wisdom, and mindfulness. They remind us that words are not just sounds carried away by the wind. They are powerful seeds planted in the hearts and minds of those who receive them. These seeds have the potential to grow and take shape, influencing thoughts, emotions, and actions far beyond the moment they were spoken. They have the power to heal wounds, bridge divides, and build understanding, but they also possess the capacity to inflict pain, deepen misunderstandings, and sow discord. In the Buddha's view, each word we speak is like planting a seed in a vast garden, the garden of our relationships, communities, and inner life. If we plant seeds of kindness, compassion, truth, and understanding, we nurture a garden that flourishes with beauty, harmony, and peace. These seeds, when watered with patience and nourished by consistent mindfulness, grow into strong trees that provide shade, shelter, and sustenance for all who seek refuge there. A garden filled with these trees becomes a sanctuary, a place where people feel safe, valued, and connected. However, if we plant seeds of anger, dishonesty, or cruelty, those seeds can grow into thorny vines, twisting and turning, entangling the paths between people and making it difficult to find common ground. The Buddha warned that such seeds left unchecked could create a garden of suffering, one filled with division, misunderstanding, and pain. In this way, the Buddha's teachings serve as a reminder that the power of our speech is not to be taken lightly. It is a tool that can either create beauty or destruction, depending on how it is wielded. He taught that every conversation, no matter how small or seemingly insignificant, is an opportunity to cultivate the kind of world we wish to live in. Imagine each interaction as a chance to plant a seed that will grow long after the conversation ends. If we speak with kindness, we plant the seed of kindness in another's heart. If we speak with truth, we cultivate trust and authenticity. If we speak with understanding, we lay the groundwork for empathy and connection. In this way, every word becomes an investment in the future, an act of creation that has the potential to shape the world around us. The Buddha's emphasis on mindful speech is not merely a philosophical concept, it is a practical and transformative approach to life. It encourages us to be conscious of the impact our words have, not only on those who hear them, but also on our own minds and spirits. When we speak with intention, we align our actions with our highest values, creating a sense of inner peace and integrity. This, in turn, radiates outward, influencing our environment and those we interact with. By choosing our words mindfully, we actively participate in shaping a more harmonious and compassionate world. The image of words as seeds is a powerful one, illustrating the enduring effect our speech can have. A single kind word, like a small seed, may not seem significant at first, but over time, its impact can grow, spreading roots deep within the soil of someone's heart. It may blossom into a beautiful tree that offers comfort, encouragement, or inspiration to those who encounter it. Similarly, a harsh or thoughtless word, though seemingly fleeting, can take root as well, growing into something that obstructs, harms, or alienates. The Buddha's teachings ask us to consider what kind of seeds we are planting with our words, and to take responsibility for the gardens we create through our speech. He also spoke of the interconnectedness of these gardens, reminding us that we are not isolated from one another. The words we speak to one person often ripple out, affecting others in ways we may not immediately see. A kind word shared with a friend can lift their spirits, and they, in turn, might spread that kindness to others. The garden of harmony we cultivate within ourselves extends into the world around us, weaving together our individual experiences into a collective tapestry of peace and understanding. This interconnectedness highlights the responsibility we have, not only for our own well-being, but for the well-being of others. Knowing that our words can either nourish or harm the collective garden we all share, the Buddha's wisdom invites us to become gardeners of life, to cultivate our speech with the same care and attention that we would tend to a garden. It is a call to be present, to listen, and to speak with awareness. Just as a gardener knows the value of the right conditions, sunlight, water, and soil, for a plant to grow, we must recognize the right conditions for our words. When we speak with truth, kindness, and purpose, we create the fertile ground needed for understanding and connection to flourish. The teachings remind us that the way we speak is a reflection of our inner state. If we cultivate compassion, patience, and wisdom within ourselves, our words will naturally reflect these qualities. They will become instruments of peace, building bridges where there were once walls and fostering harmony where there was once conflict. This is the essence of the Buddha's message. Through mindful and intentional speech, we have the power to transform not only our own lives, but also the lives of all those we encounter. The Buddha's timeless teachings ask us to take responsibility for our words, to recognize them as the seeds we plant in the gardens of the world. By choosing to speak with mindfulness and compassion, We can cultivate a world where understanding and kindness grow, where people feel seen, heard, and valued. In this world, the flowers of peace and unity bloom, creating a landscape of harmony that extends far beyond ourselves. Let us be mindful gardeners, planting seeds that will continue to grow, nurturing the world around us for generations to come. As we embark on this journey of wise speech, let's remember that it is not about achieving perfection, but embracing the process of progress. The path of mindful and compassionate communication is one of continual learning and growth, a path where each day offers fresh opportunities to refine our understanding and deepen our practice. Every sunrise marks the beginning of new chances to observe our speech, to choose our words with intention, and to align our actions with the values we hold dear. In the course of our daily interactions, whether with loved ones, colleagues, or strangers, every conversation is an opportunity, a moment where we can either build bridges or create walls. We have the power, through our words, to mend broken connections, to heal wounds that may have festered for years, and to cultivate a more compassionate world. The Buddha's teachings remind us that transformation is not an overnight occurrence. It is a gradual unfolding, like the blooming of a lotus flower. It requires patience, self-compassion, and a willingness to return to the practice, even when we stumble. By viewing each interaction as a chance to practice, we shift our perspective from seeing conversations as mere exchanges to viewing them as sacred moments where we can offer kindness, understanding, and truth. In this light, even the smallest exchange, a greeting, a compliment, or a word of encouragement, becomes significant. These moments, when infused with intention, create ripples that extend far beyond what we can see, spreading seeds of positivity and understanding into the world. Let us also remember that the journey of wise speech is not linear. There will be moments when old habits resurface or when our words fall short of our intentions. It is in these moments that the practice truly deepens, as we learn to forgive ourselves, to reflect on our actions, and to adjust our course. The Buddha emphasized that growth is found in the willingness to rise again, to recommit to the practice with renewed intention. Just as a tree grows strong through the seasons, weathering storms and basking in sunlight, so too does our practice strengthen through our experiences, both the challenges and the successes. By choosing to speak with awareness, we become agents of change, contributing to a collective culture of kindness, respect, and integrity. Our words, when used wisely, become tools for building connections, fostering understanding, and creating a sense of belonging. They become the threads that weave together the fabric of a more peaceful and harmonious society. Imagine a world where every person took a moment to pause before they spoke, considering the impact of their words. Conflicts could be softened, misunderstandings could be cleared, and the simple act of speaking with intention could transform the way we relate to one another. It is within our power to be the change we wish to see in the world, starting with our own speech. So as we move forward on this path, let us commit to using our words as instruments of peace and understanding. Let us strive to bring mindfulness into our speech, infusing it with compassion, patience, and wisdom. In doing so, we do more than just transform our own lives. We become beacons of light, guiding others toward a more harmonious and compassionate existence. Let us remember that every word we choose, every conversation we engage in, has the potential to uplift, heal, and connect. Together, through the practice of wise speech, we can create a world where understanding flourishes, and where the seeds of kindness we plant today grow into the gardens of peace and unity for generations to come. By integrating these practices and teachings into our daily lives, we can start to shift the way we communicate, infusing each interaction with mindfulness, empathy, and clarity. It begins with the small, seemingly insignificant moments, a kind word to a stranger, a pause before responding in a tense situation. or the choice to listen fully without judgment. These small acts accumulate, creating a ripple effect that extends beyond our immediate surroundings. As we practice mindful speech, we develop a deeper awareness of how our words influence our inner state and the people around us. We begin to notice that when we speak with kindness, we feel lighter, more connected, and at peace. When we approach conversations with empathy, we create space for deeper understanding and compassion, turning what might have been a conflict into an opportunity for connection and growth. This shift in our interactions gradually transforms our relationships, building trust and fostering a sense of community that is grounded in mutual respect and understanding. Moreover, by practicing clarity in our speech, we not only communicate our thoughts and intentions more effectively, but also create an environment where others feel heard and valued. Clarity helps remove misunderstandings, allowing us to engage with honesty and authenticity. It becomes a way to bridge gaps, to resolve differences with grace, and to uplift those around us through the simple act of being present and open. Through speech, we hold the power to transform not only our own lives, but also the world around us. Each conversation becomes an opportunity to plant seeds of harmony, whether it's in our personal relationships, workplaces, or communities. As more individuals adopt this mindful approach, the collective impact grows, leading to a more compassionate, understanding, and peaceful environment for all beings. By committing to this practice, we become part of a larger movement toward positive change, one that transcends the boundaries of our immediate circles and reaches out to the broader world. In this way, speech becomes a profound instrument of transformation, a means to uplift, to heal, and to create a world where harmony and compassion flourish naturally. The Buddha's teachings on wise speech did not end with the monks and disciples of ancient India. They continue to resonate through centuries, remaining as relevant today as they were then. Over time, the stories and lessons the Buddha shared were passed down from teacher to student, from parent to child, through generations of monks, scholars, and lay practitioners. These teachings became woven into the fabric of societies across Asia and eventually spread throughout the world, reaching people of all walks of life. Each retelling of these lessons provided guidance for navigating the complexities of daily life, helping individuals cultivate mindfulness, empathy, and understanding in their interactions. They became tools for resolving conflicts, mending broken relationships, and building communities based on respect and compassion. In temples and meditation centers, these teachings were taught alongside practices of meditation and ethical conduct, emphasizing that speech was not just a mundane act, but a powerful instrument for shaping reality. As societies evolved, the Buddha's message adapted, blending with different cultures and contexts. In ancient China, monks integrated wise speech into their teachings on harmony and balance, encouraging students to speak in ways that reflected the principles of yin and yang. In Japan, Zen practitioners emphasized the silence within speech, the profound wisdom found in pausing and allowing space for reflection. In the mountains of Tibet, wise speech became an essential part of the tantric teachings, where practitioners learned to use words as a means of transforming both their own consciousness and the energy around them. Throughout history, wise speech became a bridge between the spiritual and the mundane, linking inner growth with the outer world. It was no longer just about avoiding harmful words, but about cultivating a way of being that aligned with one's deepest values. The practice of right speech encouraged people to live authentically, to speak with integrity, and to connect their spiritual insights with their daily actions. In the modern era, as the teachings of Buddhism spread beyond Asia, the principles of wise speech found new relevance in the fast-paced, interconnected world. With the advent of technology and social media, the power of words became even more apparent. A single message, post, or comment could reach thousands or millions, amplifying the potential for both harm and healing. The Buddha's guidance to pause, to reflect, and to choose words that uplift rather than divide became a crucial reminder in an age where words can travel faster than ever before. In workplaces, homes, and online communities, the Buddha's teachings on speech offer a timeless guide for building a more compassionate world. They remind us that every interaction, every word we speak, carries the potential to create positive change. By embracing these teachings, we tap into a lineage that stretches back thousands of years, connecting us with a tradition that values the power of speech as a sacred and transformative force. Through our words, we have the opportunity to cultivate peace and understanding, just as the Buddha and his followers did in the ancient forests and villages of India. The power of speech continues to be a transformative tool for us today, a means to bridge gaps, heal wounds, and build communities grounded in empathy and respect. Whether in a quiet conversation with a friend, a public address, or a simple message shared online, we hold the same power that the Buddha's disciples carried, to use our speech as a tool of peace, linking the spiritual with the mundane and allowing our inner growth to shape the outer world in profound and positive ways. Imagine how these teachings reached the villages nestled along the banks of the Ganges River, where life unfolded against the rhythm of the flowing water. Farmers, merchants, fishermen, and craftsmen gathered in the cool shade of banyan trees to listen to the monks who journeyed from distant monasteries, carrying the wisdom of the Dharma. These monks, dressed in simple robes and walking barefoot along dusty paths, were embodiments of mindfulness. They spoke with clarity and calm, their words flowing like the river itself, steady, purposeful, and filled with the intent to nourish those who listened. The villagers, many of whom lived simple lives governed by the cycles of planting, harvesting, and trade, found solace and inspiration in these teachings. The monks, aware of the power their words held, spoke with precision and gentleness. Each story they shared, each lesson they imparted, was delivered with care, like planting seeds in the fertile soil of the villagers' hearts. They spoke of compassion, of understanding, and of the importance of right speech, of using words as tools for connection rather than division. As the sun dipped low, casting long shadows over the fields, the villagers would sit in quiet reflection, absorbing the teachings. They learned to apply the wisdom of the Dharma in their everyday lives, using it as a guide for their interactions. Farmers, who once argued over land boundaries, began to approach each other with a spirit of compromise, using words to find common ground rather than sow discord. Merchants in the bustling markets practiced honesty in their dealings, recognizing that the trust they built with their customers was far more valuable than any profit made through deceit. Families, too, felt the impact of these teachings. In homes built of clay and straw, where generations lived under one roof, the lessons of right speech became a tool for maintaining harmony. Parents taught their children to speak with kindness, to avoid harsh words that could leave deep scars. Siblings learned to settle their quarrels with understanding, remembering the stories the monks had told about how even the smallest words could bring great joy or cause great pain. In the evenings, as the villagers gathered for meals, they shared not only food, but also the teachings they had learned. They spoke of the monks' stories, of the young monk who had transformed his harsh words into sources of comfort, of the merchant whose lies led to his isolation, and they reflected on how these stories mirrored their own lives. Slowly, these teachings wove themselves into the fabric of village life, transforming how people spoke to one another and, in turn, how they felt and thought. The villagers began to see the power of speech not as something reserved for the monks or those who walked the spiritual path, but as a tool they all possessed. They discovered that in choosing their words carefully, In taking a moment to pause and reflect before speaking, they could bring peace and understanding into their own homes. The small gestures, a kind word to a neighbor, an apology offered to mend a rift, or a moment of silence before responding, became acts of profound impact, rippling through their families and communities. As the teachings spread along the river's path, reaching more villages, the sense of community strengthened. People who had once been strangers became allies, connected by the shared values of compassion and mindful speech. The Ganges, flowing serenely through their lives, became not just a source of sustenance for their bodies, but a reminder of the Buddha's teachings, a symbol of the steady, transformative power of words, guiding them toward a life of harmony and understanding. One day, an elderly monk, known for his wisdom and calm demeanor, arrived in a small village nestled at the edge of a vast forest. This village, despite its picturesque setting, had been troubled for years by disputes and misunderstandings. The villagers quarreled over water rights, as the river that ran through their land had started to dry up during certain seasons. Merchants and traders clashed over the best routes for bringing goods to market, each claiming ownership over the narrow paths that wove through the fields. Even within families, old grudges and unresolved feuds simmered, ready to ignite at the smallest provocation. Tempers flared easily, and the villagers' words often turned sharp, cutting deeper wounds than they realized. The air was heavy with tension, and the sense of community that had once united them felt fractured. The monk, after observing the village's unrest for several days, approached the village elders. With a gentle smile, he offered to hold a series of talks under the large ancient banyan tree at the center of the village, a place where people often gathered but rarely spoke of peace. The elders, weary from years of disputes and the growing sense of division, agreed, hoping that the monk's presence might bring some relief to their troubled community. Word spread quickly, and soon the villagers, farmers, merchants, children, and elders alike gathered beneath the expansive branches of the banyan tree. The tree's thick canopy provided shelter from the midday sun, and the rustling leaves created a soothing, natural backdrop. The villagers, curious and perhaps a bit skeptical, settled on the grass, their eyes fixed on the monk as he began to speak. The monk's voice was calm and steady, like the flow of the river they all depended on. He started by sharing the teachings of the Buddha on the power of speech. He explained that words were like seeds. When spoken, they had the power to grow into something beautiful or something harmful. He spoke of right speech, one of the pillars of the Noble Eightfold Path, and how the Buddha had taught that speech should be used as a tool for creating understanding and harmony, not division and conflict. As he spoke, he saw the villagers nodding, some with their brows furrowed, reflecting on the harsh words they had exchanged in their daily lives. Sensing their interest, the monk shared a story the Buddha once told about a young man who had a habit of speaking in anger. This young man, like many in the village, would lash out in the heat of the moment, not realizing the lasting wounds his words left behind. The Buddha had taught him that words spoken in anger were like arrows shot from a bow. They could not be taken back, and the wounds they inflicted could linger for years. The monk then asked the villagers to reflect on their own experiences. "How many of you have said things in anger that you later regretted?" he asked. Hands slowly went up, and murmurs rippled through the crowd as people exchanged glances. Brothers who had fought over land, neighbors who had quarreled over the water from the river, and even old friends who hadn't spoken in years, all began to see their own lives in the stories the monk shared. He went on to teach the villagers a simple practice, one that he hoped would help them transform their interactions. "Before you speak," he said, "pause and ask yourself 3 questions. Is it true? Is it kind? Is it necessary?" The monk explained that if they could not answer yes to all three, it might be better to hold their tongues, to breathe, and to seek another way to express their thoughts. He encouraged them to visualize their words as ripples in a pond, expanding outward. "Think about how far your words might reach," he said, "and whether they will bring peace or stir more conflict." Over the following days, the monk continued his talks, sharing more stories and guiding the villagers in the practice of mindful speech. He taught them the importance of empathy, urging them to listen to one another without judgment. "Often when we listen," he said, "we are only waiting for our turn to speak, but true listening means hearing not just the words, but the emotions behind them. It means understanding the pain or joy that lies beneath." He also introduced a practice of silence. "Sometimes," he explained, "the most powerful words are the ones left unspoken." He encouraged the villagers to take moments of silence throughout their day, to find stillness and allow their hearts and minds to rest. He reminded them that silence, when used with intention, could be a healing balm, creating space for understanding and reflection. As the villagers began to incorporate these teachings, subtle changes started to take root. The farmers who once argued over water rights began to meet regularly, not to quarrel, but to discuss how they could share the river's resources fairly. Merchants who had once competed fiercely began working together, finding ways to share trade routes and collaborate on bringing goods to distant markets. Even families, who had long been divided by old grudges, started to open their doors to one another, inviting conversation and reconciliation. One evening, as the sun set and the sky turned a deep shade of orange, the monk witnessed a particularly moving scene. Two brothers, who had not spoken in years due to a dispute over their father's land, approached each other. The elder brother, his eyes softening, bowed his head and spoke words that echoed the monk's teachings. "I see now how my words have hurt you. I ask for your forgiveness." The younger brother, tears welling in his eyes, embraced him. The villagers, witnessing this, felt the power of the monk's message come to life. By the time the elderly monk prepared to leave the village, the atmosphere had transformed. The banyan tree, which had once been a place where villagers gathered only to argue and air grievances, became a symbol of unity and understanding. The monk left behind a village that had learned to use words as bridges, not walls, and as he walked away, he could hear the gentle hum of conversation, no longer sharp or divisive, but filled with empathy and connection. The monk's visit and the teachings he shared became part of the village's story, passed down through generations. The villagers, grateful for the wisdom imparted to them, continued to gather beneath the banyan tree, using it as a place for peaceful discussion and reflection. And the once troubled village, through the power of wise speech, became known as a place of harmony, where words were used not to divide, but to heal and unite. "Each time we speak, we have the opportunity to heal or to harm," the monk explained, his voice resonating with a quiet authority that held the villagers' attention. "Imagine your words as a small flame. In the cold, it can bring warmth and light, illuminating the path for others and providing comfort. But if mishandled, that same flame can become dangerous, starting a fire that burns uncontrollably, destroying everything in its path: relationships, trust, even entire communities." He paused, his eyes moving from face to face, allowing the villagers to absorb the gravity of his words. The silence under the banyan tree grew heavy as each person reflected on their own experiences, arguments that had left them isolated, words spoken in haste that had cut deeply, and the lingering pain from past conflicts. "The Buddha teaches us," the monk continued, "that speech is not just a simple act. It is a choice, a responsibility. It is the bridge between people, and when used wisely, it can create a sense of belonging and understanding, but when used recklessly, it can tear down even the strongest of bonds, like a fire consuming a forest." He then invited the villagers to think of moments when their words had hurt someone, whether intentionally or not. Recall those times when your speech was like a flame out of control. What did it feel like afterward? How did it change your relationship with the person you spoke to? Heads lowered, and the villagers exchanged glances, some with shame, others with sadness. The monk's words had touched the memories they had tried to bury, the regrets that still lingered. But the power of speech, he continued, also holds the potential for healing and renewal. Just as water can douse a flame and nourish new growth, kind words can mend wounds and restore harmony. When we speak with compassion, we become like gardeners, planting seeds of understanding and trust. We build bridges, not walls, between us and those we encounter. The monk shared a story from the Buddha's life, a time when a follower, overcome with anger, confronted the Buddha, hurling insults and accusations. Instead of responding with anger, the Buddha listened quietly, his expression calm and untroubled. When the follower paused, the Buddha smiled and asked, "If someone offers you a gift and you do not accept it, to whom does the gift belong?" Confused, the man replied, "To the one who offered it." The Buddha then said, "So too with your anger, I choose not to accept it, and it remains yours." The villagers listened intently, and the monk's eyes softened as he continued. The Buddha's response reminds us that we have the power to choose how we respond. We can absorb negativity and let it fuel a destructive fire, or we can refuse to accept it, breaking the cycle of anger and hatred. He invited the villagers to practice the next time they felt anger rise within them. Before you speak, take a breath. Imagine the flame of your words. Do you wish it to bring warmth, or will it burn? Choose words that create understanding, that build peace, even in the face of anger. The villagers, inspired by the monk's message, began to practice this mindful approach to speech. Over time, they saw changes. Arguments that once escalated into shouting matches now ended in calm discussions. Neighbors who had long held grudges found themselves speaking with patience and empathy, discovering common ground they had forgotten existed. The small flame of their speech, once a source of conflict, became a source of warmth and connection, illuminating a new path for the village's future. To illustrate his point, the monk told the story of a woman named Lila from another village. Lila had a talent for storytelling, but her gift was often misused. She would weave tales about her neighbors, adding her own imaginative twists, turning small events into dramatic scandals. Each time she gossiped, she felt a rush of excitement, a sense of power as people gathered to listen. The attention she received made her feel important, and for a while she enjoyed the thrill of it. However, as time passed, she began to notice that people distanced themselves from her. Conversations grew shorter, and her presence was met with polite smiles or cold stares. She felt the sting of loneliness creeping in. One day, when she found herself walking alone through the once bustling market, she realized that the stories she had spread, meant to entertain and connect, had only served to isolate her. Desperate to understand why she was so alone, she sought the Buddha's counsel. She confessed her actions, tears in her eyes, and asked, "Why does everyone now shun me? I only meant to share stories, to bring excitement to our lives." The Buddha listened with compassion and then gave her a task. He handed her a small basket of feathers and instructed, "Walk through the village, and as you go, scatter these feathers in the wind. When you have scattered them all, return to me." Lila did as she was told, and the wind carried the feathers far and wide, some landing on rooftops, others drifting into distant fields. The next day, Lila returned to the Buddha, expecting further instructions. To her surprise, the Buddha asked her to go back through the village and collect the feathers she had scattered. Confused, she set off to try and gather them, but as she retraced her steps, she realized that it was impossible. The feathers had blown too far. Some were caught in the branches of trees, others had disappeared into streams, and many were simply gone. Frustrated and exhausted, she returned to the Buddha and said, "I couldn't gather the feathers. They have flown too far and scattered beyond my reach." The Buddha nodded, his expression gentle but serious. "This is how gossip works, Lila," he explained. "Once released, our words cannot be taken back. They spread far and wide, beyond our control, just like the feathers. They settle in places we may never see, affecting lives in ways we may never know. The damage done by careless speech, like the scattered feathers, is often irreversible." Lila's eyes filled with tears as the weight of her actions settled in. She understood now that her words, once released, had taken on a life of their own. They had created rifts between friends, fueled misunderstandings, and hurt those she had never intended to harm. Realizing the depth of her mistake, she bowed her head and asked, "How can I make amends?" The Buddha smiled gently. "The first step is to change your habits. Speak only words that are true and helpful. It may take time to rebuild trust, but by practicing mindful speech, you can begin to plant seeds of kindness where once you sowed discord. Remember, while you cannot gather all the feathers you have scattered, you can learn to be more mindful of the ones you release in the future." Inspired by the Buddha's wisdom, Lila dedicated herself to practicing mindful speech. She became known not for the stories she spread, but for her compassionate words, her ability to listen, and her efforts to bring people together. Slowly, she mended relationships, and the village began to welcome her presence once more. The lesson of the feathers remained with her, a reminder of the power and responsibility that comes with every word spoken. The villagers listened intently, and the lesson resonated deeply within their hearts. They reflected on their own actions, realizing that the disputes and divisions that had plagued their village were not just the result of physical disagreements over land or resources, but also the result of careless and hurtful words. They saw how their arguments, rumors, and unkind remarks had spread like feathers in the wind, creating misunderstandings and deepening rifts between families and neighbors. The wounds left by these words, they realized, were often invisible but felt just as strongly, lingering in the hearts of those affected. Some villagers, who had once been friends but had turned against each other due to misunderstandings, exchanged looks of remorse. Others, who had gossiped or spoken in anger, felt a wave of recognition wash over them as they understood the lasting impact their words had left behind. They felt the weight of their own role in the village's conflicts and the pain it had caused. Inspired by the story of Lila, they began to see the importance of taking responsibility for their words. The image of the scattered feathers served as a powerful reminder that once words are spoken, they cannot be retrieved. They pledged to practice mindful speech, making a collective commitment to transform their village from one of discord to one of harmony. The villagers came together and decided to meet regularly under the banyan tree, where the monk continued his teachings. They held open dialogues, where each person spoke with honesty and compassion, listening to one another's concerns and grievances without judgment. Slowly, the atmosphere in the village began to change. Conversations that had once been filled with anger or suspicion were now tempered with patience and understanding. They practiced holding their words to the standard the monk had taught them, asking themselves, "Is it true? Is it kind? Is it necessary?" before they spoke. The process was not easy, and there were moments when old habits resurfaced. But each time, the villagers reminded one another of the story of Lila and the feathers. They supported each other in their efforts to build a community founded on trust and respect. Over time, neighbors who had once avoided one another started greeting each other with warm smiles, and families who had been estranged began to reconcile. Children, observing the changes in their elders, also learned to speak with kindness, creating a ripple effect that spread throughout the community. As months passed, the village transformed into a place where words were no longer weapons but bridges, tools to connect and heal. The villagers' commitment to practicing wise speech created a sense of unity and cooperation they had never known before. Conflicts were resolved peacefully, and a spirit of collaboration blossomed. The village, once divided by discord, became known throughout the region as a place of peace and harmony, where people gathered not only to trade goods, but to share wisdom and friendship. The monk, seeing the transformation unfold, smiled, knowing that the seeds of mindfulness and compassion he had planted through his teachings were taking root. He told the villagers, "Remember, the practice of wise speech is a lifelong journey. Just as a garden requires constant care, so too does the way we speak. There will be times when we stumble, but with each effort, we cultivate a more harmonious and compassionate world." The villagers, now united, bowed in gratitude, and from that day on, they continued to walk the path of wise speech, creating ripples of kindness that extended far beyond their village, touching the lives of those they encountered. Over time, the village transformed into a model of unity and compassion. Conflicts that once seemed insurmountable were approached with patience and understanding, as the villagers learned to listen to one another's perspectives. Instead of reacting with anger or defensiveness, they paused, taking a deep breath, and responded with words rooted in empathy. Neighbors who had been at odds for years began to see each other not as adversaries, but as fellow travelers on the same path, seeking peace and resolution. Slowly, barriers that had once separated them dissolved, replaced by bridges of understanding. As the villagers practiced mindful speech, they found themselves becoming more aware of their thoughts and emotions. They noticed the subtle ways in which their words had the power to either uplift or harm, and they chose to speak with intention. When disputes arose, they no longer escalated into shouting matches or arguments. Instead, people gathered to discuss matters calmly, finding solutions that benefited everyone. The teachings of the monk became a guiding light, helping them navigate difficult conversations with grace and composure. The village began to flourish in ways it never had before. The fields, once neglected due to constant bickering over land boundaries, were now cultivated collectively, with neighbors working side by side, sharing tools and resources. The marketplace, which had been a place of competition and suspicion, transformed into a vibrant hub of cooperation, where merchants greeted each other warmly and supported one another's businesses. Words of encouragement and support flowed freely, strengthening bonds and fostering a sense of community that was felt by all. The banyan tree, under which the monk had delivered his teachings, became a sacred gathering place for the villagers. They met there regularly, not only to resolve conflicts, but to celebrate milestones, share stories, and pass down the wisdom of wise speech to younger generations. It stood as a living symbol of their collective commitment to peace and harmony, a reminder of the power of words to transform lives and communities. The villagers' practice of wise speech spread beyond their own borders. People from neighboring villages, curious about the newfound harmony, visited to learn the teachings themselves. The villagers, now embodying the lessons of the Buddha and the monk, welcomed them with open hearts, sharing stories of their own transformation. In this way, the seeds of mindful speech, once planted under the shade of a single banyan tree, began to grow beyond their village, touching the hearts of many and creating ripples of peace that extended far and wide. Generations later, the villagers' commitment to wise speech continued to be passed down, and the banyan tree remained a place of unity, its roots intertwined with the history of a community that had learned the true power of words. This transformation illustrates the profound ripple effect that the practice of wise speech can have, not just on individuals, but on entire communities. When one person changes their approach to communication, choosing words that heal rather than harm, it sets an example that can inspire others. As more people adopt this mindful way of speaking, it creates a cascade of positive change, spreading from person to person and eventually transforming the collective atmosphere. The Buddha's teachings remind us that, just like the villagers, we all possess the capacity to shift our environments through the way we communicate. Every interaction, no matter how small, is an opportunity to contribute to a more compassionate and harmonious world. When we choose our words with care, ensuring they are truthful, kind, and purposeful, we become beacons of peace. Our speech, once practiced with mindfulness, has the power to diffuse conflicts, mend broken relationships, and foster a culture of understanding and respect. In our modern lives, where the speed and reach of communication have been amplified through technology, the impact of our words is even greater. A single kind message or a thoughtful conversation can have a far-reaching influence, setting off a chain reaction of positivity. By modeling mindful communication, we invite others to reflect on their own words and the energy they bring into the world. The story of the villagers serves as a reminder that communities built on trust, empathy, and collaboration do not arise by chance. They are cultivated through the conscious efforts of individuals committed to the path of mindful speech. Each of us has the power to be that change, to plant seeds of harmony through our words, and to watch as they grow into a flourishing garden of connection, unity, and peace. The practice of wise speech extends far beyond personal and communal relationships. It also possesses the profound ability to heal and transform our internal state. In Buddhism, the connection between speech, thought, and action is seen as an integral aspect of the path to enlightenment. The Buddha taught that our words are not isolated expressions, but are directly linked to our thoughts, and our thoughts in turn shape our actions. Therefore, cultivating purity in speech begins with cultivating purity in thought. The Buddha encouraged his disciples to engage in meditation as a fundamental tool for this transformation. Through meditation, practitioners could observe the flow of their thoughts, recognizing emotions such as anger, jealousy, or fear before they surfaced as harmful words. In the quiet of meditation, they learned to sit with these emotions, acknowledging their presence without judgment. This practice allowed them to understand the root causes of their emotional states, gaining insight into why certain situations triggered particular feelings. By seeing the thoughts clearly, they could choose not to act on them impulsively. Imagine the mind as a vast, flowing river. When left unchecked, the currents of emotion, like anger, impatience, or desire, can stir the waters, causing the surface to become rough and turbulent. These disturbances often manifest as unkind words or rash actions. The Buddha likened meditation to stilling these waters, allowing the practitioner to see through to the bottom, gaining clarity and insight. By learning to calm the mind, one creates a space where thoughts can be transformed before they become speech, ensuring that words spoken are aligned with compassion and wisdom rather than impulsive reactions. The Buddha also taught that by cultivating positive and compassionate thoughts, we could transform our habitual patterns. In meditation, he encouraged his followers to practice Metta Bhavana, or loving-kindness meditation. In this practice, one directs thoughts of goodwill and compassion first towards oneself, then towards loved ones, and eventually towards all beings, even those one may have conflict with. This meditation softens the heart, making it more difficult for harsh or divisive thoughts to take root. As the mind becomes accustomed to generating thoughts of kindness, these thoughts naturally extend into one's speech, creating a ripple effect of positivity. For instance, one disciple known for his short temper and harsh speech struggled greatly with these emotions. When he took up the practice of mindfulness and loving-kindness meditation, he began to notice the origins of his anger, often rooted in fear or insecurity. By observing these feelings with compassion, he gradually learned to respond with understanding instead of hostility. Over time, his speech softened, and his relationships with others improved, as did his inner peace. The transformation was not only external, but deeply internal, showing how the practice of wise speech is, in essence, a practice of self-healing. The Buddha's teachings illustrate that when we cultivate mindful speech, we are not only refining our interactions with others, but also purifying our inner world. Each word, chosen with care and awareness, becomes a step on the path to inner freedom, helping us break the cycle of negative emotions that lead to suffering. As we align our speech with our highest values, we create a life that reflects peace, clarity, and compassion, transforming both the world within and the world around us. The Buddha shared with his followers a practice called Metta, or loving-kindness meditation, a profound and transformative method that has the power to reshape the heart and mind. This meditation begins with the simple act of sitting quietly and directing thoughts of goodwill toward oneself, silently repeating phrases like, "May I be happy, may I be healthy, may I be free from suffering." The intention is to cultivate a deep sense of compassion and kindness within. By first focusing on oneself, practitioners learn to build a foundation of self-compassion, an essential step in opening the heart to others. Once this compassionate foundation is established, the practice expands outward. Practitioners are encouraged to extend the same wishes to loved ones, friends, family, and those who hold a special place in their hearts. May they be happy, may they be healthy, may they be free from suffering. This act of mentally sending warmth and kindness helps to deepen the connection with those closest to us, reinforcing bonds of love and understanding. The practice becomes a way of nurturing these relationships, not just through physical presence, but through the power of intention. Afterwards, practitioners shift their focus to neutral acquaintances, people they encounter in daily life but do not have strong feelings towards, like a neighbor they greet occasionally or a shopkeeper they pass by. By wishing them the same happiness, health, and freedom from suffering, practitioners begin to break down the barriers of indifference, transforming neutral relationships into opportunities for connection and empathy. The final stage of metta meditation is the most challenging yet the most transformative. Practitioners are asked to direct these feelings of goodwill toward those with whom they have conflicts or unresolved tensions. This could be a person who has caused them pain, someone they hold resentment against, or an individual they find difficult to understand. In extending compassion to those who may have hurt them, practitioners confront their own feelings of anger, resentment, and hurt. They silently repeat, "May they be happy, may they be healthy, may they be free from suffering." It is a radical act of compassion, one that challenges the heart to expand beyond its habitual boundaries. The effects of this practice ripple outward. When the mind is steeped in compassion, words naturally follow suit. The harshness, bitterness, and anger that may have once colored one's speech begin to melt away, replaced by a genuine desire to connect, understand, and heal. Practitioners find that their words carry a softness, an openness that invites connection rather than division. The Buddha shared stories of individuals who had transformed their lives through this practice. One such story involved a man who harbored deep anger towards a neighbor who had wronged him in the past. This anger manifested in harsh words and resentment whenever they met. But after taking up metta meditation, the man began to wish his neighbor happiness and freedom from suffering, even though it felt difficult at first. Slowly, he noticed a shift in his heart. The anger began to dissolve, and he found himself able to greet his neighbor with genuine warmth. His speech softened, and in time the two men reconciled, their relationship transformed by the power of compassionate intention. This practice of metta demonstrates that when the heart is cultivated with compassion, it becomes reflected in our words and actions. We become more aware of the energy we bring into our interactions, choosing to speak in ways that uplift rather than harm. It shows that the journey of transforming speech begins within. By cultivating a compassionate mind, we set the stage for words that heal, connect, and bring light to the world around us. As the centuries passed, the teachings of wise speech evolved and adapted, finding new expressions in different Buddhist traditions across Asia and beyond. In monasteries, monks preserved and expanded upon these teachings, integrating additional practices like prolonged silence and reflective contemplation to deepen their understanding of the power and impact of speech. Silence became a profound tool, a means to cultivate awareness, patience, and mindfulness. Monks practiced observing their thoughts and emotions without expressing them, creating a space where they could see the roots of their impulses before they transformed into words. In some Zen traditions, silence was revered as a gateway to enlightenment. Monks were encouraged to observe extended periods of silence, sometimes lasting weeks or even months. During these silent retreats, they became acutely attuned to the subtleties of their inner dialogue. Without the distraction of speaking, they were left with their thoughts, learning to recognize the patterns of their minds. Whether they tended toward judgment, compassion, anger, or patience, the silence allowed them to see how their thoughts and intentions influenced their state of being. This practice aimed to create a deep inner stillness where clarity could emerge, revealing the true nature of the mind and how it directs speech. Through these quiet moments, monks discovered that silence, too, could be a powerful form of communication, one that often spoke louder than words. The absence of speech allowed them to observe the world more closely, to feel the emotions and energies of others, and to respond with mindfulness and compassion. They learned that silence is not merely the absence of words, but an active, intentional practice. It became a way to communicate understanding, acceptance, and presence without the need for verbal expression. By cultivating this level of awareness, they realized that sometimes the most compassionate response is not to speak, but to offer the gift of silent presence. This understanding of silence shaped their approach to speech. When they did choose to speak, their words carried more weight and intention, having been formed through deep contemplation. Speech in this context was rare, deliberate, and meaningful, an offering rather than an impulse. Each word was chosen with care, designed to foster harmony and understanding rather than to fill space or convey idle thoughts. This practice not only deepened their spiritual practice, but also enhanced their interactions with others, making each exchange an opportunity for growth and connection. As these practices of silence and mindful speech spread through monasteries, lay practitioners also began to adopt them, incorporating periods of silence and contemplation into their daily lives. They found that even a few moments of silence before important conversations could bring a sense of clarity and calm, transforming their interactions. Silence became a way to prepare the mind, ensuring that speech was rooted in wisdom and compassion rather than reaction and impulse. This tradition of silence and mindful speech continues in many monastic communities today. In some temples, monks still observe vows of silence, sometimes for days or weeks at a time, to deepen their practice and sharpen their awareness. These periods of silence are seen as a form of purification, a time to cleanse the mind of distractions and attachments. Through silence, they reconnect with the essence of the Buddha's teachings, experiencing firsthand the power of mindful communication. Or at times, the power of simply choosing not to speak. This ancient practice, passed down through generations, serves as a reminder that true communication goes beyond words. It emphasizes the importance of presence, intention, and the recognition that sometimes, in the absence of speech, the most profound understanding and connection can arise. The monks and practitioners who continue this tradition show us that wise speech is not just about what we say. It's about the mindfulness, clarity, and compassion with which we choose to express or withhold our words. Imagine the stillness of a Zen monastery, nestled amidst mountains shrouded in morning mist, where monks rise before the break of dawn. The air is crisp and cool, carrying the scent of pine and incense. Every movement within the monastery is deliberate. Footsteps echo softly against the wooden floors. Robes rustle as the monks prepare for their day in silent harmony. The rhythm of life here is slow and measured, each action performed with full awareness, as if time itself flows in unison with the monk's breath. In this serene environment, speech is not taken lightly. It is considered a sacred act, one that requires mindfulness and intention. The monks understand that words have power, and as such they are used sparingly. The silence that pervades the monastery is not merely an absence of sound. It is an active, living silence, a silence that holds space for reflection, mindfulness, and contemplation. It is in this quietude that the monks train their minds, observing the flow of thoughts and emotions without attachment, cultivating the ability to choose their words with precision and care. The daily routine is structured around maintaining this silence. Before the first light touches the horizon, the monks gather in the meditation hall, sitting cross-legged on cushions, their eyes softly closed. The only sounds are the occasional chime of a bell and the steady, collective rhythm of their breathing. In this shared silence, they focus inward, nurturing an awareness that extends to the deepest corners of their minds. They observe their thoughts as they arise, thoughts of attachment, judgment, and desire, allowing them to pass like clouds drifting across the sky. Through this practice, they train themselves to remain calm and centered, even when faced with the noise of the world beyond the monastery walls. As the sun rises, the monks engage in mindful activities, sweeping the temple grounds, tending to the gardens, and preparing simple meals. These tasks are performed in silence, allowing them to remain fully present in each moment. This mindful attention spills over into their speech when they do choose to communicate. Words, when spoken, are deliberate, infused with the quiet wisdom and clarity cultivated through hours of meditation. Each syllable is shaped with care, intended to uplift, to inform, or to express compassion. Nothing is said without purpose. Nothing is said without mindfulness. In this environment, silence serves as a profound teacher. It offers the monks the opportunity to reflect on the weight of their words and the impact they have. The silence becomes a mirror, reflecting their inner states and encouraging deeper self-awareness. When one monk speaks to another, it is often in a whisper, as if acknowledging the sacredness of breaking the silence. Even then, the conversations are brief, their words concise and to the point, conveying only what is necessary. Silence in the monastery is not a tool for avoidance, but rather a space for cultivation, a space where monks can hone their understanding of their own minds. It is within this silence that they learn to listen deeply, not only to others, but also to themselves. By embracing these moments of quiet, they develop a heightened sensitivity to the energy of words, the subtle vibrations they carry, and the intentions behind them. This practice enables them to speak only when their words will bring clarity, compassion, or understanding, transforming speech into an act of mindful connection rather than casual communication. The monks also engage in reflective exercises designed to deepen their understanding of speech. They practice listening meditation, where they sit in stillness, attuned to the sounds around them. The rustling of leaves, the distant chirping of birds, the gentle murmur of a nearby stream. This exercise trains them to listen without judgment, to receive the world as it is, without imposing their thoughts or opinions. By mastering the art of listening, they become more attuned to others, cultivating the empathy needed to speak words that truly connect and heal. Even when they break their silence, monks often speak in parables or stories, using metaphors and allegories to convey wisdom. These stories are not just words, they are teachings crafted to provoke thought, inspire, and guide others toward understanding. The act of storytelling becomes a bridge, linking the monks' inner silence with the world outside, allowing them to share their insights in ways that resonate deeply. In these moments, speech becomes an extension of their meditation, a practice of sharing the truths discovered in the quiet of their own hearts. In the stillness of the Zen monastery, where silence is revered and words are few, the monks demonstrate that true communication does not always require speech. It is in the pauses, the gentle nods, and the shared moments of quiet that the deepest understanding and connection are found. Their practice teaches that silence is not emptiness, but fullness, a space rich with potential, where each word spoken is a conscious choice, a mindful offering. In this sacred environment, the monks embody the Buddha's teachings on wise speech. They show that the essence of mindful communication lies not in how much one speaks, but in the quality and intention behind each word. By cultivating silence and practicing mindful speech, they create an atmosphere of peace and understanding, both within themselves and within the community, demonstrating that in the stillness of silence, the most profound truths often emerge. But wise speech is not reserved for monks or those living in solitude. It is a practice available to everyone, in every circumstance, regardless of time, place, or lifestyle. In our modern world, filled with constant noise, distractions, and digital communication, the Buddha's teachings on speech are perhaps more crucial than ever. The pace of communication today is unprecedented. Social media, instant messaging, and global connectivity allow words to travel across continents in seconds. With this speed comes the potential for both great harm and great healing. A single post, tweet, or comment, composed in a moment of anger or haste, can ripple through the digital world, shaping perceptions, influencing emotions, and building or breaking relationships on a massive scale. Imagine the vast network of connections that we now have at our fingertips. Every message we send has the potential to reach hundreds, thousands, or even millions of people. In this environment, the impact of our words is magnified. The Buddha's teachings remind us that just as the spoken word carries weight, so too do the digital words we type. Our online interactions are not separate from the principles of wise speech. They are an extension of them. When we comment on a post, send a message, or share a story, we are engaging in an act of communication that has the power to influence, uplift, or harm others. The Buddha's guidance to ask, "Is it true? Is it kind? Is it necessary?" becomes a vital tool for navigating this digital landscape with mindfulness and integrity. In the midst of this digital age, where anonymity often emboldens harshness and misunderstandings can escalate quickly, wise speech serves as an anchor. It encourages us to pause before hitting the send button, to take a moment to consider the impact of our words. Are they meant to build or to tear down? Are they an expression of compassion or of frustration? This pause, this moment of reflection, is where the practice of mindfulness becomes most powerful. It offers us the opportunity to choose our words with intention, to communicate in ways that foster understanding and connection rather than division and harm. Consider the phenomenon of online discussions and debates. It is easy to be swept up in the emotion of the moment, especially when faced with opinions that challenge our own. The instinct might be to respond impulsively, to defend our viewpoint, or to criticize others. Yet, the Buddha's teachings remind us that such reactions often lead to further conflict and misunderstanding. Instead, he encouraged an approach of listening and understanding before responding, an approach that is just as applicable online as it is in face-to-face interactions. Practicing mindful speech in these moments means taking a step back, asking ourselves if our words will contribute to a constructive dialogue, or if they might only serve to escalate tensions. Furthermore, the concept of idle chatter, which the Buddha warned against, finds new relevance in the digital world. Our timelines and feeds are filled with endless streams of information, some meaningful, others trivial. It is easy to get caught up in the habit of sharing or commenting on every thought or event, often without considering whether our words add value. The Buddha's teaching on this reminds us that speech, even in digital form, should be intentional. It invites us to focus on meaningful communication, sharing information that is not only truthful, but also beneficial and necessary. This practice doesn't mean avoiding all casual conversation, but rather being mindful of our engagement, ensuring that our digital presence reflects our values and contributes positively to the online community. Moreover, the teachings on wise speech extend to the realm of spreading rumors or misinformation online. Just as gossip can damage relationships and trust in a community, misinformation and careless sharing of unverified information can have widespread consequences. The Buddha's emphasis on truthfulness calls us to be diligent in ensuring that what we share is accurate, to avoid the modern equivalent of scattering feathers in the wind. In a world where misinformation can influence public opinion, stir fear, or create division, adhering to the principle of truthful and mindful speech is a powerful act of responsibility. Wise speech also plays a vital role in combating the negativity that often pervades online spaces. The Buddha's teachings on compassion and kindness remind us that, even when faced with harshness or criticism, we have the power to respond with empathy. A kind word in response to a negative comment or a compassionate message in a difficult conversation can shift the tone, turning a potentially hostile interaction into one of understanding and connection. This practice of responding with patience and kindness not only benefits the recipient, but also transforms our own experience, allowing us to engage with others without becoming entangled in negativity. Incorporating the principles of wise speech into our digital lives offers us a chance to build a more compassionate and mindful online community. It empowers us to use technology as a tool for positive change, a platform where words of encouragement, support, and truth can flourish. The same teachings that guided ancient communities toward harmony and understanding can guide us today, helping us navigate the complexities of the digital age with wisdom and compassion. When we apply the principles of wise speech in the modern world, we become part of a ripple effect, just like the villagers who transformed their community through mindful communication. Our words, whether spoken or typed, have the potential to inspire, to heal, and to bring people together. Each message, each comment, and each conversation becomes an opportunity to practice the Buddha's teachings, spreading seeds of kindness and understanding in a world that often feels divided and disconnected. By embracing wise speech in all forms of communication, we honor the timeless wisdom of the Buddha and contribute to creating a world where words are used as instruments of peace and understanding. Whether we are speaking face-to-face, texting a friend, or posting online, the practice remains the same: to speak with mindfulness, compassion, and purpose, building bridges of connection and healing that extend beyond ourselves and into the broader world. The Buddha's timeless questions, is it true, is it kind, is it necessary, become invaluable tools in the digital age, where words travel at lightning speed and have the power to reach countless people. In the past, these questions guided face-to-face interactions, but today they serve as a compass for our digital behavior, reminding us to be mindful even when we are communicating from behind a screen. Before pressing send or posting a comment, we can take a moment to reflect on these questions, ensuring that our online presence aligns with our deepest values. Practicing wise speech online means recognizing that the person on the other side of the screen is a human being, deserving of respect and compassion. It means understanding that our words, though digital, can still uplift or wound, inspire or discourage. It means using our platforms, whether they be social media, messaging apps, or any other form of online communication, to spread positivity and understanding, rather than division and harm. When we approach our online interactions with the Buddha's questions in mind, we become more intentional in our digital presence. Is what we are about to say true? In an age where misinformation spreads rapidly, this question encourages us to be diligent in verifying facts, ensuring that our words reflect reality and contribute to a more informed community. By valuing truth, we prevent the spread of false information that can cause fear, misunderstanding, or unnecessary conflict. Is it kind? This question prompts us to reflect on the tone and intention behind our messages. It encourages us to communicate with empathy, even in disagreements or debates. It reminds us that, even when we feel frustrated or angry, we can choose to respond in a way that respects the dignity of others. Kindness in the digital space can look like offering support to someone in need, sharing a message of encouragement, or simply refraining from negative comments. By prioritizing kindness, we create a culture of respect and care, fostering connections rather than fueling division. Is it necessary? In the digital world, it's easy to feel compelled to respond to every post, share every thought, or engage in every debate. This question invites us to pause and consider whether our contribution is truly needed. Does it add value? Will it help someone? Sometimes the most powerful choice is to remain silent, allowing space for reflection rather than adding to the noise. By ensuring our speech is necessary, we become more mindful of our digital footprint, making sure that when we do speak, our words are meaningful and purposeful. Practicing wise speech online also means recognizing the impact of our words on ourselves. Just as in the physical world, the energy we put into our digital interactions influences our inner state. When we engage in negative or aggressive online behavior, it not only affects others, but also fills our own mind with tension and negativity. Conversely, when we use our words to uplift, connect, and spread positivity, we create a sense of peace and well-being within ourselves. The Buddha's teachings remind us that our speech is a reflection of our mind. Therefore, by practicing wise speech, we are also cultivating a peaceful and compassionate state of mind. Imagine the ripple effect if more people integrated these principles into their online interactions. Social media platforms would become spaces of support and community, rather than battlegrounds of conflict and hostility. Misinformation would be replaced with thoughtful, truth-based sharing, and debates would be transformed into constructive dialogues, where differing perspectives are met with respect and understanding. The internet, often seen as a source of stress and negativity, could become a powerful tool for connection, growth, and shared learning. The Buddha's questions act as a bridge, linking ancient wisdom with modern technology. They serve as a reminder that, no matter how advanced our methods of communication become, the fundamental principles of kindness, truth, and mindfulness remain essential. In this way, we can navigate the complexities of the digital age with the same grace and wisdom that the Buddha's followers practiced thousands of years ago. By committing to wise speech online, we carry forward a legacy of mindful communication that has the power to transform not just individual lives, but entire communities. By practicing wise speech, we hold the potential to be positive influencers, using our voices to promote understanding, empathy, and compassion, even in a digital landscape that often encourages the opposite. Through our mindful engagement, we honor the humanity behind each screen, building a digital world that reflects our highest values and deepest intentions. To bring these teachings into daily practice, the Buddha emphasized the importance of integrating mindfulness into all aspects of life. Mindfulness, he taught, isn't something confined to meditation cushions or quiet retreats. It's a living, breathing practice, a tool we can carry with us as we navigate conversations at work, discussions at home, and interactions with strangers. He encouraged his followers to imagine the power of taking a brief pause before speaking, a moment to connect with the breath and align intentions. Before stepping into a meeting or engaging in a critical conversation, one could take a deep breath, setting the intention to speak with clarity, compassion, and honesty. This brief moment of reflection not only grounds the speaker, but also creates a space for more thoughtful and mindful communication, fostering an environment of trust and cooperation. In the home, where emotions often run high, the practice of mindful speech becomes even more crucial. The Buddha taught that when we engage in family discussions, especially those involving disagreements, it is essential to pause and breathe. In that moment of stillness, we have the opportunity to observe our emotions, allowing them to settle before they turn into reactive words. By doing so, we transform potential conflict into opportunities for connection, speaking from a place of understanding and patience rather than reactivity. The Buddha also extended this practice to interactions with strangers, emphasizing that every encounter, no matter how brief, is an opportunity to practice mindfulness. Whether speaking to a cashier at the market or a colleague passing by, each interaction is a chance to bring kindness and attention into the exchange. By remaining fully present and listening deeply, we show respect and recognize the humanity in others, making even the smallest interactions meaningful. To illustrate this, the Buddha shared stories of monks who practiced mindful speech even in the most challenging circumstances. One such monk, while traveling through a crowded city, was confronted by a man who insulted him without reason. Rather than reacting with anger, the monk paused, breathed, and responded with kindness, saying, "May you find peace." The man, taken aback by the calm and compassionate response, eventually apologized, and their brief encounter became one of connection rather than conflict. Incorporating these teachings, the Buddha suggested small, practical exercises. He advised practicing silence for short periods each day, not as an avoidance of communication, but as a way to deepen awareness of one's own thoughts and emotions. During this silence, practitioners could reflect on their recent conversations, considering how they might have approached certain situations differently or with more compassion. This practice, he explained, was not about perfection but about gradual growth, recognizing patterns and making conscious efforts to choose words with intention. He also recommended starting the day with an intention-setting ritual. Before leaving the home or beginning daily tasks, one could take a moment to sit in stillness and silently recite an affirmation such as, "May my words bring peace today," or "May I speak with kindness and truth." This daily practice helps to cultivate a habit of mindfulness that influences speech throughout the day. Furthermore, the Buddha encouraged his followers to view difficult conversations as opportunities for spiritual growth. He taught that when faced with challenging situations, it is essential to maintain a mindful presence. By focusing on the breath and observing the emotions that arise, practitioners can create a space between feeling and reaction, allowing them to respond thoughtfully rather than impulsively. In this way, even the most intense discussions can be transformed into moments of connection and understanding. By incorporating mindfulness into our daily communication, we gradually align our speech with our values, creating harmony both within ourselves and in our relationships. The Buddha's teachings remind us that the power to transform our world begins with the simple act of pausing, breathing, and speaking from a place of awareness. Through consistent practice, mindful speech becomes a natural and integral part of daily life, leading to deeper connections, greater clarity, and a more compassionate way of being. The Buddha also taught that practicing wise speech requires cultivating self-compassion. It's easy to judge ourselves harshly when we fall short, when we speak out of anger or say something we later regret. But the path to transformation is not paved with self-criticism. It is nurtured with self-kindness. Just as a gardener knows that growth takes time and patience, we must approach our own practice of speech with a gentle heart. Each moment of mindfulness, each effort to speak with intention, is a step on the path. He likened this process to tending a delicate plant. At times, the plant may wilt or grow unevenly, but it's through consistent care, watering, providing sunlight, and nurturing the soil, that it eventually flourishes. In the same way, when we stumble in our practice of speech, it's important to treat ourselves with patience and understanding. The Buddha emphasized that rather than dwelling on mistakes, we should view them as opportunities to learn and grow. Each misstep is a reminder to be more present, to observe the emotions behind our words, and to reconnect with our intention to speak with compassion. He shared a story of a young disciple named Anaya who struggled with his temper. Anaya often found himself reacting harshly when criticized, and though he regretted his words afterward, he felt trapped in a cycle of anger and remorse. The Buddha guided him to practice self-compassion, advising him to observe his anger without judgment, as if he were watching a storm pass through the sky. Just as the sky remains vast and open even when storm clouds gather, so too can you hold space for your emotions without letting them define you, he told Anaya. Through this practice, Anaya learned to approach his anger with curiosity instead of judgment, recognizing the patterns that triggered his harsh words. Over time, as he practiced sitting with his emotions and offering himself kindness, his outbursts became less frequent. When he did react impulsively, he reminded himself that each step forward, no matter how small, was part of his growth. His journey became one of resilience and transformation, demonstrating that self-compassion is the foundation upon which true change is built. The Buddha also taught that self-compassion extends beyond individual moments of speech to encompass our entire journey of spiritual and personal development. It's a practice of embracing our imperfections, recognizing that every effort, even when it feels imperfect or incomplete, is a step in the right direction. He encouraged his followers to see each moment of mindfulness, each pause before speaking, as an act of self-care and dedication to their growth. In this way, practicing self-compassion is not only about softening our judgment, but also about acknowledging our progress and celebrating our efforts, however small. This approach shifts the focus from perfection to progress. The Buddha explained that, like climbing a mountain, the path to wise speech is long and requires persistence. There will be moments when the journey feels difficult, when old habits arise, and when we may be tempted to criticize ourselves for not living up to our intentions. But just as a climber finds strength in every step taken, even when the summit feels far away, so too can we find strength in every moment of mindful effort. He advised his disciples to keep a journal of their progress, noting times when they spoke mindfully as well as times when they struggled. The act of writing down their reflections allowed them to see their growth over time, to recognize patterns, and to set intentions for future conversations. This practice, he explained, wasn't about perfection, but about cultivating an awareness of their journey and learning from each experience. By doing so, they developed a sense of self-compassion, treating each moment as a learning opportunity rather than a failure. Through self-compassion, the practice of wise speech becomes more than just a discipline, it becomes an act of self-love. When we approach ourselves with kindness, we create a nurturing environment where change can take root. We begin to see our words not just as expressions of communication, but as reflections of our inner journey. Each time we choose to speak with mindfulness and intention, we honor our growth, nurturing the seeds of compassion within ourselves and, in turn, within the world around us. To further cultivate wise speech, the Buddha recommended surrounding oneself with a community of like-minded individuals. Practicing in isolation is challenging, but when we have a supportive group, whether it's a meditation group, a circle of friends, or a family committed to mindful communication, our practice is strengthened. We learn from each other, share our challenges, and celebrate our growth. This sense of community reinforces the practice, turning individual efforts into collective transformation. The Buddha called this community the Sangha, a spiritual family that serves as a foundation for growth and support. In the Sangha, practitioners find not only companionship, but also a space where they can practice mindful speech in a safe and encouraging environment. The members of the Sangha act as mirrors for one another, reflecting back the impact of words and actions, allowing each person to see more clearly how their speech affects others. This supportive network provides opportunities to engage in discussions, share insights, and receive feedback, which all contribute to a deeper understanding and more skillful practice of wise speech. He often spoke of the Sangha as a garden where each member is like a different plant, unique, yet contributing to the overall beauty and harmony of the whole. When one person practices wise speech, it inspires others to do the same, creating a ripple effect throughout the group. Just as a garden thrives when each plant is tended with care, so too does a community flourish when each person is mindful of their words, using speech to uplift and connect rather than to divide. The Buddha shared a story about a Sangha of monks who had once been plagued by frequent arguments and misunderstandings. Their disagreements created tension, and the group struggled to find harmony. The Buddha, observing this discord, gathered them together and encouraged them to commit to practicing wise speech as a collective effort. He reminded them that as monks, their words were not only for themselves, but were meant to serve as examples for the wider community. Over time, as the monks practiced speaking truthfully, kindly, and purposefully, they noticed a shift. Their conflicts became opportunities for deeper understanding. They learned to listen with open hearts, to speak with intention, and to resolve disagreements with compassion. The group became a cohesive and supportive Sangha, united in their shared practice and dedication to the Buddha's teachings. The harmony they cultivated through their mindful speech not only transformed their internal dynamics, but also inspired the surrounding community, demonstrating the power of collective practice. For those who do not have access to a formal Sangha, the Buddha suggested forming small groups, friends or family members willing to engage in the practice together. These groups could set intentions for their conversations, agree to meet regularly for discussions, or even practice moments of shared silence. Such intentional gatherings create a safe and nurturing space where everyone can feel heard, supported, and encouraged to grow in their practice. In these groups, the Buddha recommended exercises to deepen the practice of wise speech. For instance, members could practice active listening, where one person speaks while others listen without interruption, focusing entirely on understanding rather than responding. This practice helps cultivate empathy, patience, and awareness, allowing participants to experience the power of being fully present in a conversation. Another exercise might involve sharing a moment when a person felt hurt by unkind words and how they could have handled it differently with mindful speech. These reflections help the group collectively learn and grow, fostering a sense of unity and understanding. The Buddha also encouraged group members to hold each other accountable in a compassionate manner. If someone noticed another person speaking in a way that was unkind or divisive, they could gently remind them of the shared intention of practicing wise speech. This accountability, done with empathy and understanding, helps strengthen the practice, ensuring that it remains a central focus in all interactions. In a world where divisive and harsh speech often dominate public discourse, these small communities serve as beacons of hope, demonstrating how mindful communication can lead to transformation. They become examples for others, illustrating that when people come together with the shared intention of fostering kindness, truth, and understanding through speech, they create a ripple effect that extends beyond their immediate circle. The power of community and practicing wise speech goes beyond just individual transformation. It builds a foundation for societal change. When individuals come together to practice and embody these teachings, their efforts create a culture of respect, empathy, and understanding. This collective energy becomes a powerful force, influencing not only their immediate environment, but also inspiring others to adopt similar practices. The Buddha's teachings remind us that we are not alone in our practice. By seeking out and building communities that value and support mindful speech, we weave a larger tapestry of compassion and understanding, creating a world where our words become instruments of healing, connection, and unity. Through the strength and support of the Sangha, the practice of wise speech transforms from a solitary journey into a shared path, enriching the lives of all who walk it together. One beautiful example of this is the tradition of sharing meals in Buddhist communities. In monasteries, meals are eaten in silence, with mindfulness. Monks and practitioners contemplate the effort that went into preparing the food and express gratitude for the nourishment it provides. The silence during the meal is not just about refraining from speaking, it is a space for cultivating gratitude and mindfulness. Such practices show that even ordinary activities can become opportunities for practicing mindful speech, or in this case, mindful silence. Before the meal begins, the monks recite verses of gratitude, acknowledging not only the food, but also the countless beings and conditions that made it possible. They reflect on the farmers who grew the crops, the cooks who prepared the dishes, and even the earth and rain that nourished the plants. This contemplation serves as a reminder of interconnectedness, reinforcing the understanding that nothing exists in isolation. It sets the tone for the meal, creating an atmosphere of reverence and appreciation. As the monks eat, they move slowly, savoring each bite. They remain aware of the texture and taste of the food, the movement of their hands, and the act of chewing. The silence becomes a space for deep presence, where the simple act of eating is transformed into a meditation. This mindful approach extends beyond speech. It becomes an all-encompassing practice of being present and aware, illustrating how even mundane activities can be pathways to spiritual growth. The silence during the meal is also a practice of restraint. It teaches practitioners that speech is not always necessary and that silence, when held with awareness, can be powerful. In a world where words are often used without thought, the simple act of eating in silence serves as a reminder of the value of restraint and mindfulness. It cultivates the understanding that silence is not empty, but filled with presence, intention, and reflection. The monks also reflect on their own practice during the meal. In silence, they observe the state of their minds, whether they feel gratitude, restlessness, or distraction. This self-awareness allows them to identify any emotions or thoughts that arise, enabling them to bring a sense of balance and mindfulness back into their experience. In this way, the practice of silent eating becomes not only a time for gratitude, but also an opportunity for self-reflection and spiritual growth. This tradition is extended to lay practitioners who join the monastic community for meals or retreats. They are invited to participate in the silence, experiencing firsthand the depth and richness it brings to an otherwise ordinary act. Many lay practitioners find that this simple practice of mindful silence transforms their relationship with food and eating, making it a sacred and conscious experience rather than a routine task. In some Buddhist communities, this tradition of silence is also carried over to other communal activities, such as gardening or sweeping the monastery grounds. These tasks are performed in silence, with the same mindfulness and presence as during meals. Each action becomes an expression of the practice, an opportunity to connect deeply with the present moment. The silence here acts as a unifying force, allowing the community to work together harmoniously without the need for words. It shows that silence, when approached with intention, can become a space for deep connection and unity, even in the absence of speech. Through these practices, the monks demonstrate that mindfulness and wise speech are not confined to specific moments of meditation or formal conversation, but are integrated into every aspect of life. The silent meal, then, becomes a powerful example of how silence can teach us as much as speech. It illustrates that every moment, every action, and every pause is an opportunity to cultivate awareness, gratitude, and connection. The tradition of silent meals and the broader practice of mindful silence extends beyond Buddhist monasteries. It offers a lesson for all who seek a more mindful and harmonious life. It reminds us that silence is not just an absence of sound, but a presence of mind. By bringing this quality of awareness into our everyday activities, whether eating, walking, or simply being with others, we can transform our lives, deepening our understanding of the Buddha's teachings on speech and mindfulness. For those who wish to practice mindful silence in their own lives, starting with simple acts like a mindful meal can be a powerful beginning. Setting aside time to eat in silence, free from distractions such as television or phones, allows for a deeper connection with the act of eating and an opportunity to practice gratitude for the food and the hands that prepared it. Over time, these small moments of silence can expand into other areas, creating a rhythm of mindfulness and presence that permeates everyday life. The Buddha's teachings show us that even in silence, we communicate. We communicate through our presence, our actions, and the energy we bring into each moment. By practicing mindful silence, we develop the ability to listen to ourselves, to others, and to the world around us, fostering a deeper connection and understanding that goes beyond words. The Buddha's teachings remind us that wise speech is not just about avoiding harm. It is about actively contributing to the well-being of others. Words of encouragement, expressions of gratitude, and even simple acknowledgements can uplift others, creating ripples of positivity. The Buddha taught that when we use our speech to affirm and support others, we create bonds of goodwill that enrich both our lives and the lives of those we touch. The act of saying "thank you," "I appreciate you," or "I see your efforts" can transform relationships and build a sense of community and connection. To illustrate this, the Buddha often shared stories about the power of positive speech. One such story involved a young boy who felt unnoticed and unimportant in his village. Every day, he worked hard, helping with chores and supporting his family, yet his efforts went largely unrecognized. His spirit began to wilt, and he withdrew, feeling invisible. One day, an elder monk, visiting the village, observed the boy's quiet diligence. With a gentle smile, the monk approached him and said, "I see your hard work, and I admire your dedication. Your efforts make a difference." These simple words, spoken with sincerity, transformed the boy's outlook. His eyes brightened, and a sense of purpose returned to his life. The acknowledgement, though small, had a profound impact, like sunlight breaking through clouds. The Buddha explained that just as we nourish plants with water and sunlight, we nourish people with words of kindness and appreciation. This kind of speech doesn't just uplift the person receiving it, it also cultivates a sense of joy and fulfillment in the person giving it. In this way, speech becomes a reciprocal act of giving and receiving, strengthening the bonds of community and enhancing mutual well-being. Practicing positive speech can also have transformative effects within families and workplaces. In a family setting, taking the time to express gratitude for small acts, like someone cooking a meal, cleaning, or offering a helping hand, can create an atmosphere of appreciation and warmth. In workplaces, a culture where colleagues regularly acknowledge each other's efforts builds trust and motivation, making the environment more supportive and collaborative. The Buddha's teachings emphasize that these acts of positive speech are not limited to grand gestures or special occasions. The power lies in the everyday moments, greeting someone warmly, offering encouragement when someone faces a challenge, or simply acknowledging a person's presence. These small but consistent acts of kindness accumulate, weaving a web of connection that strengthens over time. In communities, the practice of positive speech can be a powerful tool for healing and unity. The Buddha shared stories of villages torn by conflict that were mended by individuals who used their words to build bridges rather than walls. Instead of focusing on differences or past grievances, these individuals chose to highlight shared values and common goals, using their speech to create a sense of unity. The Buddha taught that words of reconciliation and empathy have the power to heal wounds that run deep, transforming division into harmony. The Buddha's teachings also remind us that positive speech can be a form of self-care. When we speak kindly to others, we create an atmosphere that is conducive to our own inner peace. The joy we bring to others through words of affirmation and gratitude reflects back to us, reinforcing our sense of connection and fulfillment. The Buddha explained that positive speech is like a flower garden. The more we tend to it, the more beauty and fragrance it brings into our lives. He also warned, however, that for positive speech to be truly transformative, it must be genuine. Empty words or flattery, even if seemingly kind, lack the sincerity needed to create lasting bonds. The Buddha taught his disciples to speak from the heart, ensuring that their words were aligned with their intentions. When our speech is rooted in authenticity and a genuine desire to uplift, it carries a powerful energy that can inspire and transform. In one of his teachings, the Buddha introduced a simple practice for cultivating this kind of positive speech. He encouraged his followers to begin each day with a silent vow. Today, may my words bring light to others. This intention, set at the start of the day, serves as a compass, guiding interactions and helping practitioners remain mindful of the power of their speech. By starting the day with this intention, individuals can create a habit of speaking with purpose, ensuring that their words are tools for connection and positivity. The Buddha's teachings on positive speech also extend to self-talk. He emphasized that the words we direct toward ourselves are just as important as those we share with others. Practicing self-compassion through kind and encouraging internal dialogue helps build resilience and self-confidence. The Buddha taught that when we speak to ourselves with the same kindness we offer others, we create a foundation of self-love and acceptance, which then radiates outward in our interactions. Imagine a world where every word spoken is infused with kindness and intention, where communities are built on mutual respect and understanding, and where even the smallest acts of speech contribute to the well-being of all. This is the vision the Buddha offered, a world where wise speech is not just a personal practice, but a collective effort, creating a harmonious environment for everyone. By embodying these teachings, we can each play a role in bringing that vision to life, one kind word at a time. In this journey of wise speech, every word becomes an opportunity, a chance to build a bridge, to plant a seed of kindness, to illuminate the world with the light of understanding. Just as the Buddha's teachings echoed through the forests and villages of ancient India, they continue to resonate today, guiding us toward a path of mindful communication, compassion, and transformation. The echoes of the Buddha's wisdom remind us that words are more than just sounds. They are expressions of our inner state, ripples that move through the fabric of our lives and the lives of those we encounter. In each interaction, we stand at a crossroads. We can choose words that heal and unite, or we can let our words become sharp, cutting tools that divide. The Buddha's teachings show us that every word carries the potential for transformation, for ourselves, for others, and for the world. The journey of practicing wise speech invites us to slow down and be present, to listen deeply not only to others, but to ourselves. In doing so, we open a space where wisdom can arise, where words flow not from a place of ego or reaction, but from a well of compassion and insight. It's a practice that encourages us to be intentional, to pause before we speak, and to consider, will my words create peace or disturbance? Will they bring us closer or push us apart? This reflective process is the heart of wise speech, turning every conversation into a moment of potential growth and connection. Through this practice, we also cultivate humility, recognizing that while words have power, they must be guided by awareness and compassion to be truly effective. In the Buddha's time, he often reminded his followers that transformation begins with small steps. Like drops of water filling a vessel, each mindful word contributes to the reservoir of peace and understanding within us and in the world. It's the daily, consistent effort that shapes our character and the impact we have on those around us. The Buddha's teachings also emphasize that wise speech is not about suppressing our emotions or avoiding difficult conversations. Rather, it is about approaching these moments with clarity and compassion, finding ways to express our truth without causing harm. This practice doesn't mean we shy away from confronting issues or sharing our perspectives, but rather that we do so in a way that promotes understanding and resolution. It's about transforming conflict into an opportunity for growth and deeper connection. Imagine applying this wisdom in the midst of a disagreement with a friend or loved one. Instead of reacting with sharp words or anger, we take a moment to breathe, to center ourselves, and to speak from a place of honesty and compassion. By choosing words that express our feelings without blame, we open the door for genuine dialogue, for healing rather than further division. This approach not only resolves the immediate conflict, but also strengthens the relationship, building trust and mutual respect. As we walk this path, we learn that wise speech is not just a skill but a way of life, a way of aligning our inner values with our external actions. It invites us to bring our best selves into every conversation, to speak with integrity, and to listen with an open heart. By doing so, we become instruments of peace, echoing the Buddha's teachings through our daily interactions and contributing to a more harmonious world. The practice of wise speech also invites us to become leaders in our communities. By embodying these principles, we set an example for others, showing how communication can be a force for good. Whether it's at home, at work, or online, we have the power to influence those around us, inspiring them to choose words that uplift and unite, rather than tear down. In this way, the Buddha's teachings become a living tradition, passed down not only through texts and temples, but through our very actions. Ultimately, the journey of wise speech is a journey of transformation, not only for our speech, but for our hearts and minds. It challenges us to grow, to become more aware of our thoughts, and to align our actions with our deepest values. Each step on this path brings us closer to the essence of the Buddha's message, that true peace and understanding begin within, and that by transforming our own speech, we can transform the world around us. Just as the monks and villagers of ancient India found hope and healing in the Buddha's words, so too can we find guidance and inspiration in these teachings today. In every word we choose, we have the chance to bring light to the world, to create ripples of kindness that extend far beyond our immediate surroundings. By embracing this journey of wise speech, we honor the Buddha's legacy and contribute to a future where communication is not a source of division, but a powerful force for unity and compassion. So, as we move forward, let's take each conversation as a moment of practice. Let's hold our words to the standards of truth, kindness, and necessity. Let's create pauses where we can choose our words with intention. And let's remember that our speech is not just for ourselves. It is a gift we offer to the world, a way to bring the Buddha's timeless wisdom into the modern age, one word at a time. Every conversation becomes an opportunity, a sacred moment where we can cultivate the qualities of mindfulness, compassion, and wisdom. By pausing before we speak, we engage in the practice of awareness, tuning into our motivations and the emotions behind our words. Are we speaking to uplift and connect, or are we reacting from a place of anger or fear? This moment of reflection allows us to choose words that align with our highest values, transforming our interactions into opportunities for growth and understanding. As we practice this approach, we may encounter challenges, moments when emotions run high or when old habits resurface. In these moments, it's important to approach ourselves with gentleness, acknowledging that wise speech is a journey that takes time. The Buddha often reminded his followers that transformation is not immediate, but unfolds gradually, like a lotus blossoming in the mud. With patience and persistence, even the most deeply ingrained patterns can be changed. Let's also remember that our speech has a ripple effect. When we choose words that heal and uplift, we inspire others to do the same. In our families, our workplaces, and our communities, we can be beacons of kindness and understanding. Our words can be the seeds that grow into a culture of respect, empathy, and collaboration. And as these seeds take root, they create environments where people feel safe, valued, and connected. In the modern age, with digital communication as an extension of our daily lives, the practice of wise speech takes on even greater significance. The speed and reach of technology mean that our words can spread farther and faster than ever before. This amplifies our responsibility to speak with care and mindfulness. Each time we post, comment, or message, we have the power to influence, to inspire, or to harm. By bringing the Buddha's questions, is it true, is it kind, is it necessary, into our digital interactions, we uphold a standard that ensures our online presence reflects the same compassion and wisdom we strive for in person. And as we continue this practice, let's seek support and community. Practicing wise speech alone is challenging, but within a community of like-minded individuals, our efforts are reinforced. Whether it's a meditation group, a close circle of friends, or a family committed to mindful communication, these connections provide us with strength and accountability. They remind us that our journey is not solitary but shared, and that each person's growth contributes to the well-being of the whole. In every conversation, we have a choice. Let's choose words that bring light, that foster connection, and that create spaces of understanding and healing. Let's see our words as gifts, offerings that can transform the hearts and minds of others, bringing the Buddha's timeless teachings into every interaction. Together, as we walk this path of wise speech, we not only honor the Buddha's legacy, but actively shape a future where compassion and mindfulness are the foundations of our communication. Each word, each conversation becomes a step toward a more peaceful, harmonious world. And in those quiet moments when we reflect on the impact of our words, let us remember the stillness of the forest, the rustle of leaves underfoot, and the golden light of dawn. Let us visualize the tranquil paths where monks once walked, their steps in tune with the rhythm of nature and the wisdom of the Buddha. Let these images remind us that speech, when imbued with mindfulness and compassion, has the power to transform. As we pause to consider the effect of our words, we can imagine the gentle breeze that carries the whispers of the ancient teachings, urging us to choose words that heal and uplift. Picture the Bodhi trees, their branches spreading wide, providing shade and comfort to those seeking refuge. Just like those trees, our words have the capacity to offer shelter, solace, and peace when spoken with intention and care. Let us carry the teachings of the Buddha forward, speaking not only with our mouths but with our hearts. Each word, like a drop of water, contributes to the vast river of humanity's shared experience. When our words come from a place of love and compassion, they flow seamlessly into this river, nurturing and supporting those who receive them. And when we speak from a place of truth and integrity, our words become the stepping stones that help others navigate their own paths toward peace and understanding. In every conversation, let's envision the beauty of the natural world, the way the sun's rays slowly transform the darkness of night into the brilliance of day. Just as light dispels darkness, our words, when chosen mindfully, have the power to bring clarity, hope, and connection. Each mindful word we speak is a ray of light, illuminating the hearts and minds of those we encounter. So, as we go about our daily lives, may we carry these images with us: the stillness of the forest, the rustle of leaves, the golden light of dawn. Let these reminders guide us, helping us to speak with wisdom and intention. In this way, we continue the Buddha's legacy, creating a world transformed not by grand gestures, but by the simple, profound power of mindful speech. One word, one moment at a time,